Hope in finding Nancy Guthrie now honed in on pending DNA tests amid widespread confusion on social media and conflicting reports. News Nation's Brian Entin joining us to clear up some of the confusion live from Tucson.
Breaking news from the Stream Center. Here's JB Biunno.
My goodness, what a weekend it was as Nancy Guthrie remains missing. Amid new reports coming out over the weekend, but still, we do not know where the 84-year-old is and whether or not this video will lead us to results anytime soon. Welcome into the Stream Center, folks. JB here with us, or JB here with the entire team on stream, including, I want to get right to him, News Nation's Brian Entin, bringing him in live from Tucson. Brian, it's good to have you back on stream. Let's just start with, how are you?
Hey, JB, it's good to see you too. I'm okay. Yeah, it's been I guess 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks since I've been here today. I'm kind of lost track of the days, but no, everything's going okay. Just hoping maybe this will be the week where we finally, get some answers here, and love to have a happy ending with Nancy Guthrie. So we're all just kind of on pins and needles,
Yeah, we all want a happy ending. Of course, we see Savannah Guthrie and her first video in several days being posted to social media. I want to recap our audience because, you know me, Brian, I'm going to kind of be a little bit unconventional with my first question here for you right off the bat. But in the last week, Pima County Sheriff's Office and the FBI, then you have a person detained for questioning and released, followed by a nighttime SWAT operation leading to people in handcuffs, a tarp being put over a vehicle next to a Culver's, but no arrests or much of really anything that we know of out of that just yet. You have the glove statement that came out, and that glove statement was written in a way that was confusing to just about everybody, including yourself. You had to read it a few times and make sure that you were understanding it correctly. You have a local station there in Tucson reporting that this is just believed to be a burglary gone wrong, only for that to have cold water thrown on it. Plus, you have rampant speculation from TikTokers, YouTubers, and just the general public that have kind of descended in on Arizona with the world watching. I don't know about you, Brian, but sounds like a pretty good time for a press conference, no?
Yeah, I mean, and every day we kind of wait to see if there's going to be one, and it's been more than a week now since there's been a press conference from the Pima County Sheriff or the FBI, and it's a tricky one to cover because they'll say like, "Oh, there's going to be no updates today," but then little sort of things, drip out. The FBI will put out a statement, or you'll suddenly, get a text from the sheriff with some information, which is great, but it's hard. It's been hard to track every day. It's been hard in that way. The communication has been a little tricky for sure.
And I know that Sheriff Nanos has been doing some spontaneous interviews. He'll pop up randomly, and I'm thinking, wait, he's providing updates, but only to certain people at certain times. But as far as a press conference could go a really long way in setting the record straight. How challenging has this been for you to cover?
I mean, it's been challenging. I think they want to win. I mean, look, I think it's been back and forth between him and the FBI. And my sense is the FBI is probably telling him not to do any press conferences and to just play it cool right now while they continue to investigate and try to come up with something so that they can have a good update for a press conference. But I think, the sheriff has been under fire, and I think he wants to convey certain messages. And so they'll say that there's not going to be any updates, but then he'll text or he'll do he's close with a lot of the local stations here. So he'll do an interview with a local reporter, and then everyone will start contacting the sheriff's office trying to confirm that information. So it's been hard to cover in that way. But we just take it day by day, really. And just every day, it seems like something kind of comes out every day, something new. And you think it's slow. I mean, Friday night, there was the SWAT raid that we went out on. And then over the weekend was the information about the glove. And so I really get the sense that the next 24 to 48 hours are going to be significant just because of everything that's been happening with the DNA testing. And then, everyone's just kind of discounted this raid on Friday night because there was no arrest. But, they had a federal search warrant, which is not easy to get. So I'm not totally just brushing that aside. I still think there could be something that comes out of that.
Okay, so let's hone in on the DNA, because that could be massively significant, because you have the DNA that's being done on the gloves, DNA testing that's being done on the gloves that were recovered. You also have a separate DNA profile or DNA sample that was picked up in the house itself, right? So all this DNA testing is expected to provide results, but we have a rough timeline, I believe. But I mean, what are the expectations here?
So the expectations are that they're doing the testing right now. You know, the sheriff decided to send the stuff to their Florida lab, which they've used for a long time, and which I hear is a good lab. And so it's all going through them right now. So we're waiting. What I'm hearing is they're still waiting on some results from there. But, you know, like we saw with Koberger, there's another element to this, which has probably started, which is the investigative genetic genealogy. So even if the DNA doesn't connect back the conventional way to, you know, one of the people that they've swabbed so far, and they've swabbed a lot of people, I've confirmed. I mean, a lot of the people they're questioning, they're swabbing for DNA. But so if those come back negative, they've already presumably started the investigative genetic genealogy, which is where they start looking through databases and try to connect the DNA they have to, you know, distant relatives of someone who could be involved.
Right. And this all goes back to Koberger, which of course there's a parallel there. And as I'm breaking this down in my head and trying to understand and get a grasp of this latest development in this story, I'm also just curious because, okay, you mentioned that the FBI is Sheriff Nanos and just advising just the team overall that maybe press conferences right now aren't the most wise option as far as getting information out to the public. That's interesting because there was a bit of reported friction between the agencies and the possible withholding of information and information between the two agencies, even though that has been publicly denied at this point. What I find the most interesting about this is that in essence, are you telegraphing your strategies now to the public? I find this case to be widely peculiar in that we're not getting regular updates, but the updates that we are getting are providing us insight as to where the investigation is focused, including right now with the gloves and then with the signal sniffer. And I'm thinking, is it strange to you? Is it hitting the ear funny to you as it's hitting the ear funny to me that the investigators are okay with the public finding out about their game plan here, the strategy? I mean, it's almost as if you have two football teams and you're making the playbook public. Is it bad to be tipping off a potential suspect as to what they're using as far as DNA and a low-flying helicopter with the signal sniffer, and putting that information out there? Because we have to assume that any suspect out there is following you and following the media at large.
Yeah, it's a good point. And you know, we're trying to be careful with what we report. I mean, you know how it is when you're out on scenes. There's things you see and hear that you don't report for that reason. And the last thing that I would ever want to do, or hopefully any responsible journalist would ever want to do, is, you know, interfere with the investigation. Because at the end of the day, everybody just wants to see Nancy come home in some kind of resolution. My sense is there's a lot going on that we're not reporting on that we don't know about. Like, for example, the signal sniffer. I just reported that yesterday. Sorry, someone's honking. I just reported that yesterday, and you know, that was used last week. So there was a bit of a delay in us reporting that, and I'm not sure they're even still using it. The helicopter I haven't seen up around the house in days. And in terms of some of the DNA stuff that's coming out, you know, I sense there's a lot that we don't know. So I think the stuff that they're releasing is stuff that they're okay with the public knowing. But I bet there's, you know, tons of stuff that they're doing that we're not reporting on that they would prefer, you know, stay secret right now.
Hi, Brian. It's Garrett, Phillips, producer here for the Stream Center. And I just wanted to follow up on this signal sniffer here that they talked about. So is this something that has been used before in similar cases? I know that this is not necessarily a case that has a lot of similar parallels, but is this something that has helped solve cases before? I mean, this is truly the first time I've ever heard about it. So I'm just thinking the audience might want a little bit more of a follow-up on that.
Yeah, I've never heard of it until this case. It was sent in by the FBI, so it's not something that they had here locally. And I actually saw a picture of it. It's a small little box. It's not big at all. It's maybe like 10 inches by 6 inches. and they attach it to the skid. It's actually usually used on drones, but the day that they were using it here, I'm told it was too windy to have a drone up, so they used the helicopter, and they attached it to one of the skids of the helicopter. It's just a little box, and it has to be the helicopter has to stay steady and it has to stay low. Which, when I saw the helicopter that day, I didn't know anything about the signal sniffer, and I was wondering what was going on because the helicopter was low and it was not moving around a lot. It was just staying, like in one spot. And it turns out that's because they were using the signal sniffer. And basically, they hover over an area, and I'm told it has to hover in one spot for at least 3 minutes. And it can pick up signals from Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker. But it also, what makes it like kind of not a perfect science, is it also picks up other signals. So I'm told by someone on the ground here who was part of this whole operation when they were using it, that it was picking up all sorts of stuff. I mean, it was seeing our AirPods, reporters' AirPods. It was seeing like smart washer and dryers that have Bluetooth. So it's not like it's like I said, it's imperfect. That's the way it was described to me. But it's a cool tool. I mean, and they may use it again. And if they get right over a spot where Nancy Guthrie is, the hope is that it would pick up her pacemaker.
Hi, Brian. Josh Scott here. You having followed all of the cases that you have in the past, and with everything that's happened here, I feel like we talked about that tone Friday night. We thought maybe there was a break in the case here. Now it feels like maybe there wasn't as much significance to that. What is the tone or vibe of the investigation right now? Does it feel like maybe they have confidence in a certain direction, or does it feel like they're kind of waiting for something to break here?
I mean, I felt a little bit of both, depending on which day. Right now, I'm hopeful, like I said, that something maybe is going to break soon, or there's going to be another big update, just because of all the DNA that they've gathered, because I'm told they've likely started the ancestral DNA process, which is huge. So my sense right now, I have hope right now. And people have said, "Oh, is it a cold case?" I mean, I don't think it's cold because look, I mean, it wasn't that long ago we got the images from the doorbell camera, from the Google Nest camera, which was huge. And now they're starting to look into, there's reporting now that the clothes came from Walmart in addition to the backpack. So this is going to take time as they go to all the Walmarts in the area and try to find out who bought that backpack, who bought those clothes, who bought the gloves. So it's definitely not a cold case by any means. So I'm hopeful right now. I feel pretty hopeful.
Brian, as a follow-up here to that DNA question, actually, I had seen reports from NBC News that authorities were leaning away from family members at this time, that involving obviously the Guthries. Is that because of DNA results? I know that they had swabbed a lot of people in and around the home. So I just wanted to know if that report was because of DNA results, or if that's what you're hearing.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I saw that report too. I don't know why they're reporting that. I would assume part of it is from DNA results and just the rest of the investigation. I always, I'm interested in the NBC News reports and when they have sources, just because, as we know, I mean, Savannah Guthrie is a longtime NBC anchor, and I would imagine, they're also in communication with her. So, I am very interested in the things that they report according to sources. So I don't know where that reporting came from. I would imagine it's partially because of DNA swabs and just, the rest of the investigation. And at the same time, I mean, the sheriff has said every day, as recently as last night, that they're also not ruling anyone out at this point. So I think we just have to kind of wait and see.
All right, so what we're going to do here for the next 10 minutes here with Brian Entin here on the live stream here, folks, is we're just going to now just start looking at your questions, and you can punch in your questions to heyjb.live. We're only taking questions from there for the time being, just because the YouTube chat, there's so many questions coming in so fast. I can't keep track. Josh can't keep track. So that system's a little bit easier for us to actually get questions from. There's no sign up required or anything like that. No gotcha moment. It's just a simple, basic form. So you go to, in your web browser, go to heyjb.live in a web browser, and you can just punch in your question for Brian, and we'll get to as many of them. We also have a poll question that I'm going to ask Brian about here in just a second, but this is what the form looks like here with this phone next to me on your screen. Brian, real quick about the gloves, because I forgot to ask you this about the gloves. There were a lot of gloves that were uncovered, and as far as challenges, we're talking about black gloves that are said to match the gloves that we see on the now, viral Ring doorbell cam video. But there were a lot of black gloves recovered. I think of it as dropping a deck of cards on the ground, asking somebody to find the ace of spades, and then throwing about another, 24 or so ace of spades on the ground and say, find the right one. It just seems to me like that had to have provided some complications, but they seem to have honed in on this particular set of black gloves.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical of how the gloves are going to pan out, just because there's so many black gloves around here, and where they found those gloves. At least that one set was 2 miles away on a really busy road where there's a lot of trash along the roadway. Marnie Hughes from News Nation was out there, and I was just looking at her video. And, and I'm also told by local, there's a lot of homeless people around there. And would this guy actually, this suspect have just thrown the gloves out the car window? It's possible. So I don't know. I'm waiting to see where that goes. I'm much more interested in the DNA that they collected from inside the house that is not connected to Nancy or anyone in her inner circle, because that's actually the crime scene. So that to me, I think could end up being more promising in terms of helping. And there's actually, I'm just gonna look, there's a helicopter now. Hold on, let me look real quick.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's way up there. I don't think
Where
it's the
are you,
sheriff's
by the way? You look like you're in the wilderness.
Yeah, I'm outside Nancy's house, so this is kind of where I stay most of the time when there's not any updates. So it is like very, I'm from Florida, like where you are, JB. So I'm not used to. There's a lot of cactuses and stuff. It's very different vibe here.
Right before Brian joined the stream, as we were in mic checks, Brian said, I have to sit on a box. And Brian Entin should never have to sit on a box.
Please.
I wish we could trade chairs today. I wish I could take the box and you could take the office chair. I feel like you need it more than I do. And now we're going to get to the questions coming in, but I want to ask our audience here as well this question. I want to ask, Brian, your perspective on this question, because it's our poll question on our website and people are already starting to vote. You can see the vote counter on the bottom of your screen. The mass attention on this case. I mean, clearly people have, law enforcement, Savannah Guthrie herself, asking for people to participate, tens of thousands of tips, likely as far as the amount of tips coming into law enforcement. Do you believe that the mass attention in this case is more helpful or more harmful to the Guthrie investigation, given that, when you have this much attention, it can create complications as well?
So some of it I think is helpful. Obviously, they released the photos for a reason, and the FBI doesn't normally like to release photos unless they need the public's help. So I think overall helpful because they're asking for help. And we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I mean, some of the best tips coming in based on those photos are probably from people who just saw them on the news or on social media. Where I think it's an issue is people online who are, and I have nothing against, YouTube journalists and there's a lot of responsible people out there. But where I think it's an issue, and I go back to even Gabby Petito and when we covered Koberger, is when people start posting photos of people who they think are involved. And that just kind of bothers me. That's where I think it gets a little out of control, just because I've seen so many times where, most of the people who are suspected end up not being involved. And, you really drag these people through the mud. Imagine that stuff stays online forever. So I just think people need to be careful about that.
Yeah. And we've seen way too much of it. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. But in the meantime, while we have you here for just a few minutes, let's get to some of the questions and comments that have been coming in on our website for Brian Entin. Again, submit yours at heyjb.live. That's just a place that's easier for me to read them. So Kathy and Lindsay were the first two to get in questions. Kathy asked about the postcard from APL that was on Nancy's door. And was someone concerned prior to her abduction? We also have Lindsay here talking about the business card from APS. So clearly a lot of focus here in our chat from that angle.
Yeah, and that's an interesting question. It's interesting. This helicopter is right here. There is a business card in the door, and we zoomed in on it last night, and I saw it, and it is from Adult Protective Services from an investigator. It seems like it's been in the door for a while because we went back and looked at our video from a couple days after we got here, and it was still in the door. But I actually texted the sheriff and asked him about it, and I haven't heard back. So I don't know I don't know where it came from or what it means, honestly, but it is there.
Maisie wants to know, has there been any contact with the family outside of the pre-recorded messages? Do you know Savannah by any chance? I mean, in your reporting, have you ever run into her?
No, I mean, I'm a fan of hers. I've always liked just watching her like a lot of other people. And I've, from colleagues who have known her, worked with her, it sounds like everything you hear about her is true. I mean, in terms of just being a genuinely nice, good person, which, at that level, there's just so many like jerks, and apparently she's not one of them. So I think that's true. She sounds like a really, really good person. But no, I've never met her before. And every time one of those videos comes out, it's just so heartbreaking. It just reminds you of like how sad this is.
Yep. Connie wants to know, hashtags for us both, how could this be a burglary gone wrong when nothing was stolen but Nancy? You must have seen that report from the local CBS affiliate last night as well.
Yeah, I was skeptical of that report just because the people who I've been in touch with haven't told me that. I don't think they know. That's why I was kind of like, that's an interesting report because, there's a lot of theories out there, I don't think there's one theory that they're 100%, going with right now. So, yeah, and we don't know for sure. I mean, the sheriff has never fully answered whether anything was stolen, but, the sense is based on when you put everything together that they've told us is that there wasn't, a bunch of jewelry stolen from the house or anything like that.
Right. Bethany says, why use a signal sniffer if they're only doing it over her house? We know she's not there, so it seems to be a waste of resources. Why not fly around other neighborhoods? I mean, where have you seen this low-flying chopper? Let's start there.
Yeah, and they may have. I just saw it at the house. I know the signal sniffer was at the house because I actually saw it, but it went other places too after that. I didn't follow the chopper. And a lot of people on social media like track the chopper and it does circles a lot of places. So I'm sure they didn't just use it at the house. They probably used it in other places too.
Let's see. Oh, this is a great question. R. Haynes, will the signal sniffer still work if Nancy isn't alive?
It's my understanding, yes. I think the pacemaker stays, charged up. So, yes, from what I understand, it would.
Let's go to this question from T. Juddy. Again, all these coming into our website, heyjb.live, is the last call because if you don't get yours in now, probably won't be able to get it in for Brian as he only has a few more minutes with us. Do you think the glove DNA might be a distraction and they have more leads that they're finalizing? I think it's fair to say that this is a comprehensive investigation, right, Brian? And the DNA is just a part of it?
100%. Yeah, I think it could totally be a distraction. I think there could be a lot. Like I think I said it earlier. I think there could be a lot that we don't know about. And it could be a surprise when something goes down and it's like, oh my gosh, we were so focused on the glove and it had nothing to do with the glove.
Look, Brian, I know this question, I hate shying away from questions. I like to really hone in on what people say. So I know this is a difficult one for you to answer. So given that you're there on the ground with this case, but I'm going to throw it up because, look, there's been a lot of people expressing frustration with the seemingly difficult and complex nature of this investigation with how it's being handled by the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office. So PM Dunn says, do you feel like the Sheriff Department has done their best in handling this case?
I mean, look, there's a lot of people who are upset with the way the sheriff has handled the case. It's interesting coming here and just talking to so many deputies and former deputies. And there's been a lot of drama with the sheriff's office for a long time here that just wasn't in the national spotlight. There's been a lot of turnover. I was interviewing a sergeant yesterday who was telling me that, the homicide team right now has like 2 to 4 years experience on average. A lot of the experienced people have retired. They're short-staffed. So I think criticism of the sheriff's department is definitely fair. I think there's a time and place. I mean, obviously, I think the focus right now should stay on finding Nancy. And I'm sure when that hopefully happens afterwards, everybody can look back and look at everything that was done wrong. But even the sheriff has admitted that essentially that he made some mistakes, clearing the crime scene. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely been drama between them and the FBI. I know that because I've talked to people on both sides. So I think it's fair right now to be critical of the sheriff for sure.
Alexa says, one thing that's missing from this case, Brian, that really sticks out to me is any vehicle component. And so we've gotten a bunch of questions about that. Alexa saying, I've seen reports that the traffic cameras don't record vehicles. What is the purpose of the cameras if they don't record and can't help in situations like this? And it's so standard for stories that you and I have covered in the past for there to be some kind of vehicle discussion taking place. And this one completely absent. So what do you make of this one?
Yeah, and I've thought about the traffic camera thing too, and there are other states too, just from covering other stories I've done, crime stories, where the traffic cameras don't record. So that's not uncommon. But yeah, I mean, a vehicle would be huge. My sense is the suspect or suspects, and there could be more than one, walked in they parked the car somewhere else and walked through the desert or walked. I mean, it's so dark out here. There's this ordinance here that you can't have outside light at night because there's so many stargazers, and it is beautiful. The stars out here are insane at night, but it's also pitch black. So it would be very easy to, park a half a mile away and then walk into Nancy's neighborhood and would not be spotted.
Gabriel, I think we already answered this question, but you know what? It's considering Brian's got to go here. Let's, thank you for your reporting on this case, Brian. My question is, being so invested in the reporting on this case, how do you see this case ending? Cold or solved? At what point do you decide the case is cold and you stop reporting on the scene? This is a tough one for you and News Nation to figure out, right? Because you're there every day, but you can't be there forever. So right now you're on the case. So to the question, how do you see the case ending, and when do you decide, what your future is as far as reporting on this case?
I think it will be solved. I really do, in my gut, just because, you've got President Trump talking about it constantly. I mean, he's got the full weight of the FBI working on it. The way they got the Google video, which has never been done before to our knowledge. I mean, she didn't have a subscription. They allegedly didn't record the video, but then they somehow found the video. So I think they're going to do things in this case that are like extraordinary because there's so much pressure on the FBI and there's so much pressure on the sheriff too. So I think those things combined, I do think it'll be solved. In terms of when we stay or go, I mean, I don't think we have any plans of leaving. I usually am like, I always feel like I'm like the last one standing at these things. Like everyone leaves and I'm still sort of like standing there in the dark. So that's probably will be the case here too, I'm sure.
Dalen, question, does Brian know how much he's appreciated by everyone for his amazing coverage and dedication? It's great to have someone who sticks to the facts and doesn't spread rumors. Thank you, Brian.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
The appreciation has been everywhere on social media. Let me just end. I've always asked you this question on like every time I've ever had you on, and people make fun of me for asking you this question, but what are you eating? Are you taking care of yourself?
Oh my gosh, what am I eating?
Are you taking care of yourself? Because you're always out there for days on end, hours. I don't know when you get sleep, but are you taking good care of yourself? And what do you eat?
Yeah. I'm good. I'm fine. And just from that perspective, I have been sleeping enough, I think. And I've been drinking a lot of smoothies. We actually, I don't know if you saw, like there was all this drama that someone got a pizza ordered to Nancy Guthrie's house and like, they ended up making it to the front door. Did you see that, JB?
Yeah, I did.
And so the sheriff's office put out a tweet like, please stop ordering food to Nancy Guthrie's house, which I never did that. But we have been Ubering Eats a ton just because we don't want to leave the scene. And so we always run out to grab it because it's like we're so afraid that that's going to happen again. Like when the Uber Eats person's going to try to walk to Nancy's door or something. But no, Uber Eats has been like really good out here just because you don't want to leave,
Yeah. And I don't think you had the pizza thing on your bingo card for this story. That one threw everyone for a loop. Brian, you're doing amazing work out there. I hope somebody sends this man a smoothie because you're I mean, with a lot of content creators out there doing what they do, of course, I think they're all following you. I think everyone in the comment section would start there saying that they're following you and all the great work you're doing. Anything else you want to pass along before we let you go?
No, that's it. It's good to see you as always, JB. Thanks for having me on.
Great work out there, Brian. And I'm sure I'll talk to you soon, pal.
All right. See you later.
All right. Back here in the Stream Center with the team, Josh Scott, Garrett, Phillips, and we got hundreds of questions on our website. We couldn't get to them all in the short time frame that we had, but we are going to continue to answer questions from our website and from the YouTube chat and the Facebook chat as well. Guys, what do you make of Brian's comments?
I'll be honest, going into that and coming in today, I felt a little, I think, discouraged. I think Friday for me was pretty discouraging. It felt like we had this high, again, as previously mentioned, of this is going to be a breakthrough in this case. They've detained 3 people. They've got a vehicle. And then to feel like really nothing came from it, at least nothing publicly has come from it. That coming into the day, I was like, okay. Talking to Brian and hearing him, echo that he feels that there's this vibe that they feel confident about the DNA, about the breakthroughs in the technology they're using in the DNA, and maybe something comes from it. I feel a little bit better. I also, it was helpful to hear him, especially given his background, and he's boots on the ground there, right? To say, I don't think this is a cold case now, and I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. That was helpful and encouraging for me.
Yeah, I think obviously the DNA is the next step here. Once they get that DNA back from the glove, does it match anybody in the database? And if not, does it match, as Brian mentioned, these kind of ancestry DNA, these family trees, if you will? Do they find a ping somewhere along the line with what they have in the system? And can they at least then narrow down on, as they mentioned, as relatives of who might be involved? That, I think, is the next most important step. And
my bad. Sorry about that. That was some ad audio that got through in our IFB.
But yes, I do. I think that's the next step, and I think that hopefully, as Brian mentioned, he had said that process could take somewhere around 24 hours after it was done, and they started submitting it yesterday. So I'm hoping that today we get some information, some answers on that.
Well, and something to echo too that I didn't really think about till the end there when he mentioned the federal's involvement and how big the scope of this case has gotten. Is this is becoming, the FBI's throwing everything they have seemingly at this, and I think the longer they continue to do that, the more they're going to want to solve this case, even more than they already do, right? Because the whole kitchen's going at this thing, and so at the level that it's at, it's kind of, he did a good job shifting my perspective on how long this case will go, and truly how much effort is going into finding Nancy Guthrie or discovering what happened.
All right, so shout out to Garrett. He just tipped me off to this. Take this, for what it is. TMZ is reporting now a fourth email demanding money. I'll read it in its entirety, okay? And the ad that was playing in our IFB.
That's what I thought.
That's TMZ.
Yeah.
So TMZ has received a fourth email from a man claiming to know who kidnapped Nancy Guthrie and where she is. And we have a proposition for that person. The email with the same Bitcoin account as the other 3 notes says in part, quote, "I know what I saw 5 days ago south of the border, and I was told to shut up, so I know who he is, and that was definitely Nancy with them," end quote. This is the second reference he's made to there being more than one person involved in the purported abduction. In the third letter received by TMZ on Friday, he said, quote, "Be prepared to go international," end quote. The man says he has a burglary on his record from 10 years ago, so he's scared to come forward, presumably fearing he'd be implicated. He is again demanding $50,000 in Bitcoin up front in return for the information. If the individual who is writing us, here's the proposition part now from TMZ, so this is interesting. They have a paragraph here at the end. It says, if the individual who is writing us these emails is reading this, if you are for real, send us the information regarding the whereabouts of Nancy and her kidnappers. We will immediately forward the information to the FBI. If it leads to finding Nancy and/or the kidnappers, you will then have a public record that you are the one responsible, thus ensuring you will get the reward. The FBI is aware we are making this overture. Wow. So that means that TMZ has been in contact with FBI investigators regarding this, to no surprise, right? Obviously, given the nature of this story. But basically what they're saying is, look, forget about this private Bitcoin thing. Give us the info. We'll get it to the FBI. And you have TMZ's word. TMZ is basically putting their reputation out there. You have TMZ's word. You will be the one to collect the $100,000 in reward money, regardless of this person having a burglary charge. Because this person is claiming, I can't go to the FBI. I'm going to TMZ, and I'm not going to the FBI because of a potential criminal implication with burglary.
It seems like they're offering to be a middleman between law enforcement.
Exactly right. And we might have to ask a question to our audience about this in a little while. But I'd like to get to at least 100 votes on our poll question here before we close it out, because it is the active poll that we currently have on our website. Guys, hop on over there real quick. It's a one-tap poll. No sign-up required or anything like that. You just literally hit one button and you're back here. And it says, do you believe the mass attention is more helpful or harmful to the Guthrie investigation? What do you guys have a take on this? Because I can see it both ways. You want to get all of this attention because you're getting, an incredible amount of tips. You're getting activity like this TMZ report. I mean, that's clearly because of the mass attention that this story is receiving. And yes, this person is coming forward saying it's motivated by money. It's motivated by wanting to net a six-figure sum. But at the same time, you also have, is this a distraction? Is this TMZ report completely, is this person claiming to come forward, is it completely bogus? And is it distracting from what actually matters in this investigation? Not to mention all the TikTokers, YouTubers that are there that, as Brian Entin put it, and I have said as well, that are putting out images of people that have nothing to do with this case and who also do have other questionable tactics in relation to how they're getting the information out there. Is that more harmful to this? We've clearly gotten over 100 votes. What do you guys, what's your sense on it?
I think we all can kind of understand the articulation around why it would be more harmful, right? But I want to go down this other route of where it is becoming more helpful, and that is, everyone knows that the FBI is in on this case, and everyone knows how many resources from the FBI are going into this. And so it becomes, if the FBI cannot find this person, people are going to remember that. And that has major implications, not just for the FBI's view in the public, but then what people think they can get away with on something at this scale. I mean, the amount of technology going into this, we had, as Brian mentioned, never heard of something like Google being able to recover footage like this. What
we never heard of the signal.
Yes, exactly. The
signal sniffer.
Right.
By the way, that's quite a name. The signal sniffer just it sounds like something super sophisticated. I know it was top secret. It's not top secret anymore, by the way.
Yeah. No, it's out there now.
It's out there now. Everybody knows that this is a thing.
And if we know that they're using that now, days after they've used it, you can just only imagine the other technologies that are going into this. So there's if there were less people seeing this, there'd be a little bit less pressure on the FBI. This is an incredible amount of pressure on them to get this done, not just to solve the case, but to make sure the public views the FBI at the level that they currently did going into it.
The full arsenal of FBI resources and technology is at the disposal of investigators on the ground. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I think ultimately with this question, what it comes down to is if they're able to find the person who did this, if they're able to find Nancy due to a tip, right? I mean, because ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how much harder it made the investigation if the public is able to give a tip that leads to a break in this case. Ultimately was more helpful.
Mm-hmm. Right. And Brian Entin tweeting out 3 minutes ago, sheriff saying, we can confirm that the clothing seen in the video may have been purchased from Walmart, not exclusively available there.
Yep.
Another wrinkle.
A lot of content creators have made their way over to local Walmarts to prove that this is something that is that.
He followed that up with another statement by the department saying that was never stated to be a burglary gone wrong. So clearly Brian seems to be speaking with Sheriff Nanos, or at least with a contact involved there.
Getting some communication.
All right. So we're gonna show the results of this poll, but first I'm gonna word this. Okay. Do you believe the person in the TMZ reporting has
credible information?
Thank you. Credible info in the Guthrie case. Okay. I'm going to do a yes or no. We're going to keep this simple. And I want to know if people believe this person or not. That's ultimately what I want to know is does the public at large, and this is why we do polling here, everybody. Do people believe that the person contacting TMZ legitimately has information connected to the suspect in this case, or suspects? That's a whole other thing. Is that, based on reading reading these reports, is that there's the reference of there potentially being more than one suspect. Mm-hmm. So that to me is interesting. But before let's reveal the results. Okay. I'm curious, what do you guys think this is going to be? Do you believe the mass attention is more helpful or harmful? Do you think people are going to be more on the harmful side or helpful side?
I think helpful will be what most people vote for.
I think so. I think so too. Let's show it here live. Okay, so we've had a lot of votes, 2/3 one way and 1/3 the other this week. 2/3 of our audience says more helpful, 64%. 1/3, which is a large sum, 36% say that all of this mass attention is more harmful to the investigation.
Are we all agreeing with chat? Are all three of us thinking that this is more helpful, or is there a party that kind of leans towards?
Garrett and I we're usually thinking along the same lines. All it takes is one credible tip to make the difference in the case, and if you have to sift through thousands to get to that one, and it turns out to be the one that breaks the case,
it was worth it.
It's worth it.
Was absolutely
it's absolutely worth it. All right, so let's move on to the next poll, and you're going to see this refresh now on heyjb.live. Okay, and this is it. As we hold on, next poll, please. Let's go to this. Oh, I was hovering over the wrong one. There we go. Do you believe the person in the TMZ reporting has credible info in the Guthrie case? You'll see that refresh. We'll come back to this in like 10 minutes, but I want to get as many votes here as possible. And again, I stake my reputation on this being a no gotcha kind of thing. We'll put away the results for now as they start to come in. These polls and this comment feature is only motivated by giving our TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube audience and our app audience a unified place to be able to interact with us here in the Stream Center. Okay, so can we go over Brian Entin's tweet one more time and just kind of break that down before we move on to some other talking points?
Do you have it, or do you want me to do it?
Well, which one? Because he's got the two. The most both of them.
What's the most recent?
Well, they're both about
6 minutes.
the same time. Essentially, Brian saying that the sheriff has informed him that they can confirm that the clothing seen in the video may have been purchased from Walmart, but it is not exclusively available at Walmart, so that it remains a possibility only. It is not the only avenue that which this individual could have got the clothing. The second tweet from Brian, the sheriff says that the Pima County Sheriff's Department has never stated that this was a burglary gone wrong. Any reports indicating otherwise are inaccurate, and this remains a very active investigation.
Okay, I get to go on my soapbox now, and to our audience, I am so sorry for me, but when it comes to what we do in our industry, okay, and Brian and I could have bored everybody with this for a long time by talking about this, because Brian, let me give you an example about Brian Entin, okay? Because Brian and I have had a lot of talks about this in the past, about how we communicate information out in stories like this when a lot of people are watching. And it doesn't matter if one person's watching or 1 million people are watching. It really doesn't matter, because we have the same sort of philosophy in that Brian Entin being out there is getting single points of information all the time. All the time. Somebody is making a claim. And then it's just kind of the expectation, the standard that we hold ourselves to in this industry, that you can't just report that information based on the word of a single person. And we've seen that a lot in this case. It's so like standard these days for people to just go with one source of information and not follow up with a second or third source to make sure that you're doing your due diligence, doing your job, and vetting that person and vetting that single source of information. But it's a little bit alarming to me that we live in a world now where one person can say something and it spreads like wildfire on the internet. And this is where you establish trust and credibility in certain people that you follow. There's a station in Tucson that reported on Friday night that there was somebody who was deceased of a self-inflicted wound. And, obviously that turned out to not be true, but we talked about it on this live stream. You guys remember we were here at 1 a.m.
Yes.
We were here 1 a.m. and we were talking about how, my goodness, they're going with this report based on a single neighbor, a random person. It could have, I don't know who this person was, but we don't know if this person was, a reputable member of the community, or if this person that was high on drugs on the street. We don't know, but the news station said, we talked to one neighbor who said that, a person shot themselves, and they ran with that report. And now we have other media and non-media alike that are, publishing reports on social media and based on one source of information. And because there's no daily press conferences, because there's no daily updates or any routine or pattern on the dissemination of information from law enforcement, everyone is just grasping onto these reports and jumping on them and retweeting them and sharing them, and they go viral within seconds. And people aren't asking the most fundamental question is which is, should I believe if this is true? Where is this information coming from? So that's my soapbox speech. Please, everybody, when you read a report, ask yourselves, where is this coming from? And more now than ever, unfortunately, you can't just take a news organization or reporters at their word, unless maybe you're Brian Entin or a couple of other phenomenal reporters that are out there, by the way, in Fox News or with Fox News that are doing great work. By the way, I just want to give them the recognition that they deserve because they're doing some great work as well. But you have to ask yourself, if I ever trusted this person before, and this person's information that's being shared out, where is it coming from? Has it been properly vetted? Has it been put through the paces? Because that's how we do it. I can't speak for everybody else, but that's the end of my speech.
Well, speaking of your statement there about the other reporters from places like Fox News, Michael Ruiz tweeted out just about 2 minutes ago, actually, right when you started this, that this is information coming in from the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Similar information to what Brian has tweeted, but Michael has a kind of a full, what looks like a press release that maybe was sent. It includes the DNA evidence statement that they gave about the glove yesterday, which I will not go over again. I mean, we talked about that with Brian already. Yeah. It includes both the statement about the clothing from the Walmart as well as the clarification about the burglary gone wrong report that Brian has already mentioned, that we have read those tweets already. The part that we haven't mentioned, and the part that I think maybe is going to frustrate some people, is briefings and interviews. No press briefings are scheduled at this time. If a significant development occurs, a press conference will be announced via email and on the Pima County Sheriff's X account. The sheriff is granting a limited number of one-on-one interviews. We understand media interest is high. However, due to time constraints, not all requests can be accommodated. We encourage outlets to coordinate with their local affiliates when possible.
My last point, and I promise everybody I will move on, but I just want to bring this up on report. We for a few stories, Gabby Petito, Brian Kohberger, and the University of Idaho murders, Ocean Gate. We were live for millions every day, or we weren't live for millions, but our content was whether it was in live or pre-recorded form, was reaching millions of people every day. Do you have any idea how many claims we got? How many people reached out to me via DM and said, "This is the truth. This is what you should believe. You got it all wrong." And how I just said, like, you know, I'm gonna if there's a substantial claim, I'm not gonna just report it. We are taught in this organization not to do, in this industry, not to do that. So, all right, I think I've said enough. But that brings me to the poll. We'll let people continue to vote here for a little bit while longer, but we're asking on heyjb.live in the browser, do you believe the person in the TMZ reporting has credible info in the Guthrie case? Because they're publishing this based on this person's word that they might have information pertaining to the case. And so we'll see what the poll results are here in just a second. We'll let a few more people get in their votes on our website.
You want to send me that tweet just so I can see if I can get the what they
From
released
Ruiz?
out? Yeah, I can't, for whatever reason he's not coming up on my end.
Sure, give me one moment.
And then, look, really quickly on the Walmart backpack, which have we seen if it's connected to any other retail store? I've only seen Walmart attached to it. So.
I'll see. I think that's a Walmart brand.
That was the one piece of the clothing. The rest of the statement is more about the clothing.
It's not one you're going to find at Marshalls or Target or anything.
But yeah,
like
that backpack
right.
I believe was exclusive.
There's no doubt that this screams to me, and this is just providing some context. Not this isn't fact. This is just some context. This screams to me something that investigators looked at weeks ago, or a week or so ago. You would imagine that the investigators with the FBI, the investigators with the Pima County Sheriff's Office, and everybody else that they have there on that team, they're processing DNA. You would imagine by now that they have identified the clothing and the other items in that video.
Well, I think, in fact, the statement that was sent to reporters like Brian and like Michael confirmed that, because they said that those clothes are not exclusive to Walmart, unlike the backpack. So clearly they've identified the brand and the model's not the right word, but the type.
That's something that they might have been on that might be ancient history to investigators as far as knowing. And you would imagine if that's the case, then they would have cross-referenced, credit card statements. They would have. You would imagine. I'd be curious if the FBI went over to the local Walmart or all the Walmarts in Tucson to get surveillance video, to cross-reference purchase history with surveillance video, to see if anybody matching any particular description connected to the case was walking into that Walmart to make that purchase or those series of purchases. So, look, could it have been bought at Walmart a long time ago? And it's impossible to go through the thousands, if not tens of thousands, of shoppers that go into Walmart on a daily or weekly basis. Look, it's needle in a haystack, perhaps, but the FBI's on it.
Even just thinking about the fact that that backpack could have been a gift, could have been purchased by somebody who doesn't match the description, who then gave it to a friend or a family member. There's so many ways that can go and would not lead necessarily to a direct. Not like you're going to find necessarily a video of this guy right here in Walmart with the backpack in hand checking out at, a self-checkout register. And that's unlikely.
It goes back to our conversation about, we asked this on our stream last week. I forget which stream it was, but is this guy smart?
Yeah.
Honestly, that's like the number one question. When I'm driving into work every day, I'm trying to figure out if this person is intelligent, because you can't elude the might of American law enforcement in this country for weeks without having some competency. You have to be somewhat competent, but also at the same time, we've had people come onto the stream. We've talked to people who look at the video and think like, this is not a professional and this person is making mistakes, and it was, but.
I mean, not to, again, we're getting into speculative territory, and I don't want to speculate or make it seem as though we're making a report, but, could it be the case where this individual is not a professional criminal, as if you want to even call them that, or a competent one, but then has help? Like if something happens midway through where there's been that kind of insinuation from the notes that go to TMZ that we've talked about, where there's maybe more than one individual involved, and maybe somebody who isn't as clumsy or sloppy with the type of work that people seem to have suggested that this individual on camera could have stepped in and helped pass that moment. I guess that's also a possibility. That's the part that's really frustrating, is that because of how little bit of information that we do have, there are so many different possibilities that this could, lead to where it has led to so far.
Well,
I'm sorry, Josh, go ahead. Yeah.
I just keep going back to the fact that if you think the ransom notes are legitimate, we're talking about the two that went back and forth. He said the second deadline was last Monday, and unless TMZ is going to put something out in the next 2 minutes, you haven't heard from that specific person with that Bitcoin address since that second note. And that's interesting to me, because if you go down the line of thinking, hey, maybe this is truly the kidnapper, that is really the only communication, the only insight into this person's psyche. Because other than that, we haven't heard from that actual person. So, it's fascinating.
I want to be clear. What I'm about to say is not speculative on the investigation. It's more speculative on how information is divulged to the public in a case that garners this much national and international attention, okay? Because I advocate for transparency all the time. With court cases, right? In previous court cases that we have covered on this stream, and we've covered a lot of big ones over the years, I advocate for live stream access in the courtroom so that people, unless it's a federal case or there's a particular case where a judge determines that the information is just not suitable for the public at large, I believe that every court case in this country should be accessible via live stream. If you can show up with your own 2 feet and sit in the courtroom and attend it in public, then you should be able to have access to it virtually. We're just at that stage as a civilization, as a society, that you can virtually attend a court proceeding, and you should have the right to do so if it's open to the public. If it's open to the public in person, it should be open to the public virtually. That's always been my case. I advocate for transparency all the time, and a big part of that is investigations with press conferences. And basically, my opinion is, obviously, as taxpayers, we are all contributing to this country and the law and order that exists in this country, and we want there to be updates. We want there to be some transparency with our agencies, our law enforcement agencies, on how the progress of investigations that matter to us. So I'm never gonna come down on a law enforcement agency for not doing press conferences. Otherwise, I'd be I'd be slamming the FBI left and right, because the FBI always, for the longest time, that's not their MO. They don't do press conferences. The FBI, it's just not what they do. So I'm not going to ever slam an agency for not doing press conferences. However, when you have a case rife with this much information that is creating this cloud of uncertainty that is hanging over Tucson right now, and there's just so much misinformation being fired left and right on social media, to the point where reporters on the ground are having difficulty figuring out exactly what is going on, and having to do the extra work just to figure out what is fact and what is fiction, and they're the pros that are on the ground. Maybe it's time to call a press conference. Maybe it's time. Michelle on HeyJB.live saying, do you think there will be a presser anytime soon, or will we have to wait until they successfully bring Nancy home? I
mean, we just saw that report.
They have said that they're only going to call Sheriff Nancy said he's only going to call a press conference if he has an update. Well, I feel like there have been updates, and we don't have a presser. So it has to be an update that rises to a certain level in his head to be worthy of a press conference, and clearly we haven't hit that level yet, Michelle. So my hope for any press conferences are as low as they've ever been, because we've had so much activity in this case and yet no press. By the way, the purpose of a press conference: set the record straight. It gives the lead investigative agency the opportunity to stare at everyone in the room all at once, not cherry picking certain outlets, everybody all at once. Basically, you're addressing the public at large in the world, and you're setting the facts for where they need to be and setting the record straight. And if there's something you can't answer, you just say, we've heard the line a million times. We can't comment on that at this time.
Well, and I'm curious, JB, I think I know your answer. I think everyone watching this knows your answer, but we asked that question: has going public done more harm than good?
Right.
I think a nuanced look at that is, you can go public with something like this, but if you're going to make that decision, you've got to be willing to do more press conferences than have been done, even if you feel like you have nothing to report.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just, there's no law in this country that says you have to do press conferences, but there's got to be somebody in that agency, Josh, that is kind of looking over at the sheriff and being like, hey, Sheriff Nancy, we've worked together a long time. We've worked together for years, and I know you don't want to do it, but you might be able to clear up a whole lot of public confusion right now, and actually it might help you out on the back end if you just set the record straight and tell people what is true and what isn't at this stage in the investigation. They clearly have a policy, and Nanos is clearly, to Brian's point, he's right. He's likely, the FBI is giving the recommendation, and maybe that recommendation goes as high as the President of the United States. We don't know, but the recommendation to not speak. Although I would find it strange if President Trump gave the recommendation to not go in front of a camera. That doesn't sound like that lines up, but yeah. Okay, so enough about the press conference. Let's get to some of the questions that are coming in, but before we do so, let's reveal we now have about 280 votes. You see the vote counter there on the bottom of your screen on our one-click, one-tap, no sign-up poll on HeyJB.live. Do you believe the person in the TMZ reporting has credible information in the Guthrie case? Once again, this 2/3 rule is, I think every poll we have had has been 2/3 one way and 1/3 the other. For those just listening in the car or walking their dog, 66% of our audience believes that the answer is no, that they do not believe that the person contacting TMZ has credible information. But a whopping 1/3, look, that's a lot of people still believe that this person does have credible information in the case.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, it's the 2/3 thing, or the 2/3 thing is very interesting to me, and I don't know where I lean. See, what's interesting is when we talked about this Friday, Garrett. If this person does have information, they sure seem to really want to give it, and they're trying to give themselves leverage. But what was it? 2 notes ago, they said this is my last time saying anything. Clearly, it was not. And if they feel, I think if it is a real thing, we're going to discover that somewhat quickly. Especially maybe now TMZ. Maybe that does help. Maybe it doesn't. But this person clearly won't stop sending in notes because they think that they can get something here. And to me, the more notes that is sent, I don't know what that range is where you start becoming more valid because of the amount of effort you're putting into something like this. But if it was one person just truly just trying to get money and running, I don't know that tonal...
if you would continue. Like after the first or second one doesn't lead to anything, maybe you decide that it's not worth continued risk. So yeah, that was my thought too, is if it's 4 messages in, is that a sign of somebody who is desperate to take advantage of a situation that, involves this grieving family? Or is it a sign of somebody who truly does have something they want to give, but they want to make sure, they get out of it whatever they want to get out of it? It's hard to tell. And it's hard to tell the mindset of an individual and what they might be going through. And I wonder if, TMZ in that message said that they had informed the FBI about this. Obviously, they're having this communication. I wonder if they're... And if TMZ has these resources to get someone who has like a psychologist on the phone to say, hey, what is this? Is this more likely to be someone
That's a good point.
who would would make these moves out of desperation, out of trying to get, one up on somebody? Or is this more indicative of somebody who might actually think they have something to share?
Or even, I'll jump in here. And what about just digital forensics? I mean, you would have a psych expert, evaluate, the message itself. But if TMZ turned this person over to the FBI and they are communicating with the FBI, can't the FBI, work with TMZ to track the origin of these messages? You would hope that could be done, but you just don't know.
Another curious point is you assume, and I guess we don't know this for sure, but we assume that they haven't been able to track the original ransom notes that came in. Does the fact that both are asking for Bitcoin and both to this point seem to be untraceable bring any validity to the mindset of, okay, maybe this person does have information if they're claiming to know the person and apparently seem to be at least around or near the circle? Does that make you lean at all towards maybe we should take this more seriously? Or is it just, I could go home right now and figure out how to make myself untraceable?
I have this general feeling that there are millions and millions of people, billions of people in the world, hundreds of millions in this country. And in a case like this, when they put up a reward for $100,000 for information, you're going to get some crazies out there that are going to lie through their teeth and say, yeah, I know where she is. Give me the Bitcoin and I'll tell you.
Well, we know that that's already happened. I mean, they've made an arrest already with somebody being an imposter in this case. And that makes me wonder, what is this? What has made this different than that instance? Because we had found out, right, that there was multiple messages sent to TMZ, or like the very first messages that were sent, one of which they had treated as credible, others that they thought maybe were imposters or something like that case. And we heard about an arrest within days of that first report. This is now the 4th time that this individual has, sent something. What have they done differently? Or what is different about their messages that have made the FBI and TMZ treat them differently and have made them not, immediately. I mean, they immediately caught the other guy.
What gets it past the sniff test?
Right. And they immediately caught the other guy. So if this person doesn't have credible information or doesn't have a potential for credible information, what is he doing or they doing differently that is keeping them out of that potential consequence that the other people have seen who would try to take advantage here?
Nanny says, #HeyJB, don't the hospitals have info on the pacemaker to see if it's still active? I know it went off the app, but don't they transmit so a hospital would know? No, they transmit locally only. We believe it's Bluetooth technology, don't we? So
we know that the pacemaker.
It's got to be within range. Right. So that's why the helicopter with the signal sniffer. Right. You and I, we're techies, right? So they're it's actually wild to me that they're flying a helicopter low enough to the ground. Guys, this is not all that different, to Brian Entin's point earlier. This isn't all that different from your AirPods or any other Bluetooth accessory that you have. If you try to pair it from, the other side of the room, it's going to work. Right. But if you try to pair it from 100 yards away, no chance. It's the pacemaker is similar in technology, and that's why they're flying so low over these, over this neighborhood.
I mean, we saw that too in the timeline when we talked about how the pacemaker disconnected at 2:28, 2:27, sometime like that in the morning, and that was the last time that it pinged on Nancy's smartwatch and the Apple Watch involved. That's how hospitals nowadays, right? If you have an iPhone or an Apple Watch, you have a health app, and in that health app, you have the ability to essentially invite your primary care doctors to receive shared data. So yes, there are doctors, right? Nancy's doctor at whatever hospital that she visited regularly would normally get updates about the pacemaker, but they would get it from Nancy's phone because Nancy's pacemaker would send that information to the phone or to the Apple Watch, and then the phone itself would send it off. The pacemaker is not directly sending information to a hospital, right? A local hospital. That's not what is happening.
Let's get to some more. I just had the questions are, this is why we use the hashtag system. I know that sounds like this self-serving thing, but it's actually not. Because I cannot keep up with the YouTube comments. So guys, for YouTube, and maybe we can pin a comment, Josh, to now that we've, Brian Entin was on earlier in the program. If you use #HeyJB, it's signaling to us that you want your comment to be featured on screen, just like Nanny did here. Whether that's on our website or whether that's on YouTube Live or Facebook Live, that's basically signaling to us that you want us to pluck your comment and put it on screen. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'm reading through thousands of comments coming in every few minutes or so, and it's like impossible for us to read them all. So it helps me hone in on the ones where you actually want to be on the stream and trying to get a question answered. So in fact, starting now, I'm just gonna just isolate and there we go, just like this. Use any of these hashtags, #HeyGarrett, #HeyJosh, #HeyJB, and that's how it'll appear in the queue here on this screen here in the Stream Center, and I'll bring them up as they start to filter in.
When you get a chance, JB, I want you to check Teams and just see if that's
something
you want to bring up.
Here. What do we got, Garrett?
The Hill.
Oh, from the Hill.
Yeah. I was unsure on that. So.
Oh yeah, no. This is coming from our friends at the Hill. That's another. As far as media alliances go, everybody, they're on our team.
Right. They are sourcing.
You want to go? Yeah, go for it, Garrett. Take it
sure.
away.
Okay. Yeah. The Hill sourcing a conversation that the New York Post had over the phone with President Trump. The Hill says that Trump basically threatened a severe penalty, including the most severe penalty, the death penalty, if the results of the Nancy Guthrie investigation are, let's just say the most unfortunate result. When pressed on whether the Justice Department would request the death penalty in the case, Trump told the Post, that's true, speaking as far as the most severe punishment for the individual involved.
Basically, if Nancy Guthrie is not alive,
right? If she's not found safe
or returned safely, president saying the
The
death
justice,
penalty would be pursued. So
For what it's worth, Zachary on our comment section says, I think TMZ is vetting everything before they speak on it. TMZ might be they might be tabloid.
They have a reputation that they have.
They do have a reputation for, and as far as tabloids go, look, they have a as far as transparency, that's kind of they literally have a show where they show you into their newsroom and speak about the information they have coming in. So we pay attention to TMZ, and by the way, like, I don't know if this is a secret,
That's not fun.
but just about every news organization in America pays attention to TMZ. And if there's any media group out there that has this high and mighty, TMZ, we don't, no, that's they're beneath us. They're checking TMZ all the time to see, because their threshold, their bar might be a little bit lower, and also their style might be different than what you would find in, let's say, the Washington Post or the LA Times, the New York Times, or FoxNews.com. And but the information that they put out, they have their own process, a unique process, and that process has earned respect over the years. And so people pay attention to TMZ. They don't get it right 100% of the time, but you know what? No one in the media gets it right 100% of the time, right? So, I don't. When people slam TMZ, I said, yeah, you can slam TMZ if you want. You could be one of those people, but you consume TMZ in all likelihood. Let's see. I'm reading through some of the comments that are coming with our hashtag system, and seeing what we. Yeah. So all right. If the TMZ whether the TMZ report is, has some connection to reality or not. Okay. The FBI, as do all of us following this case, have to entertain the possibility that if Nancy Guthrie is alive, and we hope that she is, by God, we hope that she is, that she might not be in this country. What was the drive from Tucson to the Mexican border?
About an hour. Yeah.
About an hour.
And that fourth report from TMZ, or fourth message. So
you could be in South America by
TMZ
now with the amount of time that you have to travel.
Well,
I mean, let's just call it what it is.
How is it that TMZ said that note? What it said, be prepared to go international.
Yeah. So, but okay. To Nyla's point, I think it's Nyla. Have they considered that if she's alive, she needs meds? Mexico sells over-the-counter meds. Can they check there for those meds sold across the border?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how jurisdictions work for those types of investigations. I mean, I would assume that you're going to need.
There's HIPAA protections. Right. Look, I don't know what medical privacy you have in the state of Mexico, but I feel like if a law enforcement agency in the United States were to call up, the corresponding Mexican equivalent of really like the FDA or something to that basically that type of body, and you're calling them up in Mexico and saying, hey, can you just give me the receipts for all the people that have bought this drug in the last 2 weeks? I think that they would hang up the phone. I can't imagine a scenario where Mexican authorities, even in the spirit of cooperation, I can't imagine a scenario where Mexican authorities are going to divulge the private medical history and purchase history of countless Mexican citizens.
That's a huge invasion of privacy, and that's the reason that HIPAA laws and things like that exist.
For an American domestic story,
right. And again, cooperation is great in the spirit of justice, but I cannot see it.
Got to contextualize it a little bit.
All right, so Charlie sending this into heyjb.live. To me, the backpack may have had Nancy's medicine in it. If she has a heart problem, she would need it. Do they know what kind of medicines that Nancy needs? Can they check it if any of it was purchased? Then maybe you can see them on camera at the drugstore. Okay, you're giving the abductor a lot of credit here, okay? If you're going down this section of the rabbit hole. Because basically what you're saying, Charlie, is you're saying that you're saying that the act is premeditated and organized enough to the point where the person extensively knew Nancy's medical history you also are saying that they knew and had the presence of mind to snatch that medication. And what you're also saying is that during the struggle, that they still, as the plan likely was going a bit haywire, as Nancy, in all likelihood, was putting up a fight of some kind. Clearly, we have the trail of blood out the front door. If you're going down that frame of thinking, you're basically saying that this person was so on it and so put together and so prepared for all outcomes that they snatched the correct medication, and also too, we're assuming that there was enough medication in there to last for 2 weeks. How many times have you been on medication and you're down to like the last 4 or 5 in the pill container, and you're like, oh man, I need to go to my local pharmacy and get a refill. You're assuming that she had plenty in there to cover 2 weeks. There's so many ifs in this hypothetical, Charlie, that it just, not to mention, this suspect walks up to the front door and puts the hand in front of the camera and then just kind of like casually starts looking for some grass or shrubbery to cover in front of the camera. Ask yourself, and I'm here to ask these questions. Ask yourself, does the person that you see in the footage seem that organized to know precisely to know her medical history and to snatch the right medication, put it in the backpack, and make a getaway with an 84-year-old victim? We're going down that rabbit hole a little deep now, and I want to bring everybody back to reality a little bit.
While also being somewhat surprised that there was a Nest camera at the front door.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm a little distracted. I'm very frustrated by this.
What?
Twitter appears to be down on
and
our
X,
end right now.
X is currently down.
Yes.
No way.
And the reason why it's frustrating me is because, one, obviously I'm checking Brian.
I haven't had that tab up for a while. Right. We should have asked Brian.
Right.
I'm going to text Brian right now. Let me text Brian.
One of the things, as we're, just for transparency, as we're doing these streams, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm constantly checking Brian's, as well as other reporters who we know are on scene, their X accounts for this type of information. And that's frustrating to lose that source. But what I'm really frustrated about is that, not that I think that one was necessarily coming imminently, but the Pima County Sheriff's Department basically said, you're going to find out about a press conference on our X profile.
Right.
And
but they said there was another way.
It was an email, but the thing is they're going to send out emails to local affiliates. So now, for people who are national paying attention to the story, which I would assume most eyes of paying attention to the story are national at this point, it's an even bigger struggle now to pull up and to find the latest information unfortunately, because of the way that the Sheriff's Department has decided to operate when it comes to this case specifically.
The only, if it's down for us, it's probably down for them. So you'd hope maybe they go to Facebook as well with an update or some alternative point of social media. But yeah, the timing is not the greatest.
I just reached out to Brian and be like, hey, if something were to happen, where are we getting your update? Because Brian
Send a text. Like, we need something.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell Brian to text me and be like, hey, I'll share it out with the, whatever our live audience is right now.
I'm still getting notifications, but I'm not being able to actually look at it.
I don't know what our Facebook is, but I know we're doing 10,000 on YouTube too, on Twitter, so or on TikTok.
Ryan's funny. Brian is so honed in on this story, as he should be. He had no idea that X was down, so I think he's trying to figure out himself what he's going to do to get out updates to people. I love it when people come to the realization about the type of reporter that Brian Entin is, because I go back when he got the job at News Nation, and as he started as the Southeast/Florida correspondent for News Nation before he saw a lot of promotions and moved up as the senior national correspondent. But he and I have always really just I like it when hard-working reporters who do it the right way get the recognition that they deserve, and there are few in this world that deserve it more than Brian. So, yeah.
I've got the.
I'm just shooting him a text right now.
The irony, Garrett, is I've got the live updates up for a couple of other sources, but they're getting their live updates also from X. So I'm sure everywhere is kind of feeling. Anyone reporting on this right now is probably feeling the same thing. Like, are we going to Blue Sky, Threads? What are the other ones that exist?
Right. And I mean, not to throw commentary at corporations or social media, but this is part of the problem when you have one platform that is dominant for something like this, is that if they're not operable, then you're out a lot of information sources. And so, hopefully there's an alternative that pops up that we have, not necessarily to replace, but just as for this type of moment, right?
Or a quick resolution.
Right.
Maybe they're back in 3 minutes and we are A-okay.
Caius, I'm taking your word here that, Mary Ellen O'Toole, the FBI profiler who worked on the Unabomber and Zodiac killer, says that the individual's characteristics is not of a burglary suspect, but someone who is deeply psychopathic.
Pima County Sheriffs have said multiple times now that they don't think that this is a burglary gone wrong, that this is, there's nothing that indicates that, and they're not really sure where the reports are coming from.
To the point from earlier, if it's a burglary gone wrong, you're making out with, you're leaving that property with all the valuables you possibly can get.
You're not coming in with a full backpack you can't fit any more things into.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's what it is.
Okay, so Brian, Brian's response is, if X is down for a considerable amount of time, you can follow him on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. He'll get something out on YouTube Shorts. I don't know, Brian. I know you have a YouTube account, but I didn't know you were paying attention to YouTube Shorts. And he goes, and News Nation, of course. Yes, if there's big breaking news, Brian Entin is going to be on News Nation first and be able to update his socials as possible. But his job is to be on News Nation as the senior national correspondent. So this is my opportunity to say, find News Nation on your local television provider and watch, and because they're very much part of our company. Is News Nation. That's how Brian and I, in large part, know each other, is through our parent company, Nexstar. So Jack says single source reporting is sorcery. That's a pun I never thought of, Jack.
Good work,
yes,
Jack.
let's not make single source reporting the standard for the future. Let's not let this case be the one where people just started single source reporting and that became the norm. We don't want that. That's single source reporting can be fine, but you've got to be able to stake your entire career. Are you willing to stake your entire career and your entire reputation and your livelihood on that source? That's what every journalist has to ask, because single source reporting has gone back for decades. I mean, going back to the biggest scandals this country's ever known, single source reporting has been there. But you got to be able to stake everything on it, everything, to be able to go with a single source. And also, too, if it's such a, just give, put your name out there. If you're, some people, anonymous, sourcing is a whole other subsection of this conversation that I'm not going to get into, but that's a whole other thing too. Let's see here. So, Cam on YouTube Live. I want to get to TikTok, by the way. TikTok, we're coming to you next. Hashtag comments only, because I can't go through the volume of comments there. But hey, JB, there's no way an 84-year-old woman walked out of there. So they had to have had a vehicle. They should have been able to geofence cell phones or vehicles coming in and out of the area on CCTV. I think that there's thousands of devices that ping local cell towers, and it can be extraordinarily difficult to figure out which one was entered at that time frame and exited at that time frame. That's like, again, talking needle in a haystack. If you have a suspect,
right, you'd be able to pinpoint
that. And this is what happened with Koberger when they aligned his cellular activity with the crime scene in Moscow, Idaho, and they found the timestamps and then him returning to the crime scene the morning after. Remember all the timestamps? We went through them for like, it felt like hours on live stream that week. When the cell phone records came out, we were actually parsing through it line by line and going through, the timestamps. Like if you have that person of interest, you have that suspect, it becomes a lot easier to line everything up. But to go through thousands of devices,
it's like a digital footprint. It's easier to match the footprint to a boot when you know the boot.
That's
but you don't necessarily know the boot here.
That's a very good way of putting it.
Thank you.
That's I'm gonna save that one. That
noted.
This guy. Yeah, no, that makes a whole lot of sense. Let's go to. Let's see here. Billy asks, could this be a revenge kidnapping? We haven't really talked about this all that much, but there are people out there who really despise the media. And without going down the path of speculation to the point where it's irresponsible, you have to wonder. I'll pose it in this way: you have to wonder how much the FBI is looking at whether or not this is, if the perpetrator here, if the suspect in this case would have a history of having a thorough hatred for the media. Savannah Guthrie obviously being at the center of this from a name recognition standpoint. And I'll kind of keep it at that. You're curious as to how much her profile as a national host on NBC News factors into whether or not that was a motive here. And I know that I'm sure that people have had that conversation nauseum on social media, but we haven't really talked about it at great length because it is speculative in nature. And so,
right.
But no doubt that's got to be part of it. If you're, again, without going too far into it, would the FBI look at somebody who has been sending hate messages to Savannah Guthrie for months?
Oh, I'm sure they would.
Example, right? That those are the kind of would Savannah Guthrie turn over her socials to the FBI for the FBI to look at somebody who had such a significant dislike for her that they would comb through that, message by message.
Again, speaking of Savannah Guthrie socials, an update last night, we hadn't heard much in a while, and then marking 2 weeks to the day in which this entire thing started, her coming out and saying we're still holding out hope, and the intrinsic human good, I think is the way that she described it. There's always, it's never too late to do the right thing, kind of as another plea. I can't imagine just putting myself in her shoes, so to speak. She's got to be exhausted emotionally, physically. I hardly think she's been able to get a ton of sleep. It's grown so large from a media perspective that that can't get lost.
R.A. Blanchard, hey JB, will we get DNA results today?
Well, the Pima County Sheriff's statement, or the FBI statement, whoever it was that sent the statement out about the glove originally, they said that process, right, that they had sent it off to the lab and that it arrived, I believe, yesterday or over the weekend, and that process typically takes 24 to 48 hours. And Brian talked about that earlier in our stream and our Q&A with him. So it's possible, right? This is the 24-hour range, so it is possible.
It's very likely. Tomorrow. Brian had a great interview with a DNA expert on his YouTube channel. Go check it out, by the way. Anything we could do to rep Brian, because it was a fascinating interview. Rapid DNA testing is becoming more and more common. The technology to do rapid DNA testing. Look, Garrett, there's a very, very good chance that the that the DNA test results have come back by now, and it's just
Right.
not being blasted to the public.
And
Let's
I
just
mean,
call it what it is.
Right. We've talked about this too, about if they're withholding information from the public, and they've said basically, you can, assume what you want, basically kind of non-committing, but committing that they are. And why would you? I mean, you get a DNA match, but you don't want to say, hey, we have a DNA match of this individual. We're going to go get him if you haven't already gone and gotten them, right?
Well,
because that would just be tipping people off with the way that this story is being covered. So yeah, I mean, even if they did get it back, we might not hear about it until they have a suspect.
Well, and DNA is a little bit different, but think about what has happened every time, even just an ounce of an identifier has come out. A person's name has gone out there and been put on blast, regardless of if people actually have any valid reporting behind it. We had the thing happen with the house where they said, oh, county records show X as the person. I don't want to name that person here, but they must be now a lead suspect in this. And the Pima County had to tweet out, the reports of that are inaccurate. There's other people that it's happened to already as well. So when people's lives are on the line here and their credibility, and with it already having happened at least twice now on a large scale, I imagine they're not
Right. You don't want to make an innocent life worse trying to save a different one.
They're not too what's the word I'm looking for here?
Eager to put that out.
Eager to put it out.
Right.
Let's I don't. Is there something that we're seeing a lot in the chat? And I'm going to ask the chat. Like, should we? What's another? Is there a question we should be asking the audience? When we had the, let's bring it up here again. We had the poll question up earlier, and that poll question here on the bottom of your screen. Do you believe the person in the TMZ reporting has credible information? In the Guthrie case, 67% of people said no. Is there another question that we should be, while we're here on stream and we're going through a lot of comments, and also, look, let's just kind of reset here. JB Biunno, Garrett, Phillips, Josh Scott, two Stream Center producers here with us here today. We just had Brian Entin on about an hour ago. X is down at the moment, but we're here parsing through the latest as far as the Nancy Guthrie search and the latest in the investigation, and kind of keeping people up to date with whatever the updates are, even though with X being down, that makes it a bit of a challenge. We can, I can text some people, but not having X obviously creates its own complications. But while we're here, guys, we don't have an active question right now. Let me know in the chat, you guys. Is there another question that we should be asking the audience at large here while we have the audience that we do? You guys know me as a streamer who I'm super. I want to get people, want to do right by everybody. So there's a question that we want to ask everybody.
I am finally getting some X back. It's not fully, but we are getting something. Yeah, I can access a few places now. And again, the reason why this is, at least for me, as I'm trying to find information while we're doing these streams to bring to everybody, that one of the reasons why this is the most frustrating that, in terms of this X situation, is because Pima County has been pretty adamant that this is where they would post updates.
I've seen a couple of questions about, TMZ and why would they be sending letters to TMZ and not a local station? You technically don't know that they haven't been sending letters to local stations.
That's an excellent point. We don't know where these letters have been sent to. I mean, would you send it to just one organization? Would you put all your stock in TMZ, right? I mean, you got multiple news stations in Tucson. You probably have the area newspaper. You probably have radio stations. All these different entities that you could send to.
And TMZ, announced the letter the first time, so that sender's probably like, well, if they did it the first time, I can probably get them to do it again. So.
Okay, I now have X fully back.
As do I. Michelle wants to know, hey, JB and Garrett, do you think we will see footage from the neighbor's cameras or the second half of the one from Nancy's? I'm curious why that is being withheld, if it could help identify the suspect. So I don't know, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know why the video ends when it does. Does the video end when it does because the motion capture stopped capturing footage in that moment, and
Which video are you talking about? The neighbor ring camera down the street,
no,
or
no,
the original Nest?
The original Nest video from the front doorbell. I mean, is there a reason why there isn't more of it?
Well, we do know that that camera was eventually removed, right? And that it was disconnected from the home. Maybe that's because that happens right after the moment that we do see on video, and that it's just, maybe the rest of the video is just the interior of the individual's hand as they're taking the camera off.
Right.
Maybe it's just because that's the only footage that they could recover from Nest.
I've held I might not have a Nest doorbell camera in front of my house, but I have set them up in the past, and I know the battery. Well, I think it's usually a rechargeable battery, right?
Yeah, right.
It is, and then there's a switch to turn it off on the back. Right, I think so. Yes, the person would have had to deactivate it. This individual would have had to grab it
in that
remove
scenario.
it from the plate, flip it around, and then likely hold the power button to turn it off. Right? I don't think it's a switch.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing to answer Michelle's question a little bit too is look right here. We've talked about this ad nauseum, but you don't see much of the road there because the structure you're walking into an area. Yeah. And there's a lot being blocked here. And if, it seems like the architecture is very similar around in this neighborhood. And so if you're putting a door, if you have a doorbell camera by your doorbell, you're not really catching that much. And so it'd be hard, I'm sure, to sift through the neighbor's cameras and then see, is that a car moving that far from the door?
And not to mention the fact that this is just a very rural area. It's a lot of space and a lot of property for these different homes. It's not like her neighbors are, wall to wall with her. They're, a good distance away. And so that's part of it too. There could be that they were not able to find anything from any neighboring. In fact, I think that it's probably safe to say that if a neighbor's Ring or Nest camera had footage they felt showed something worth showing, that they would have showed it by now.
Well, Brian's reported that there's believed to be a second camera device located on the property, and we just haven't heard much about it from a law enforcement standpoint. So what that camera is, and is there footage? R.A. Blanchard asking, is there footage from a backdoor camera? I remember hearing that there was from Brian that there was a second device on the property itself. But whether or not that,
there was a camera on the roof, I believe, if I remember correctly.
So is that consequential? We haven't been told from authorities.
It's hard to imagine too, just given how much you can see of the individual on that Nest camera. You see them walking away, then walk up. They're wearing a mask, but you see their eyes and their mouth a little bit. It's hard to imagine that from that perspective, you'd be able to get much more of the individual.
Right, because we see already the clothes that the individual's wearing. There's not a lot of skin showing. It's all primarily in the face. So if it is, let's say the camera is the camera on the roof, right, that extra footage is coming from, and it's looking at a distance, all you're going to see is the same thing that you've seen in that first footage, right? You're going to see maybe where the individual walked on the property, but is that going to help anybody determine who this individual is? Probably not.
Yeah, which is why I asked, is it consequential if they do recover that footage, and what does that footage look like? Alyssa asking on, let's see, it's on our website, heyjb.live. Do you think this case will go cold? Look, how about we channel the optimism of our colleague Brian Entin, who his spidey sense is indicating that he believes the case will be solved, and he says to watch out for the next 24 to 48 hours. I don't know if he's basing that anything other than on his spidey sense, that tingling that you get, that basically when you're putting all of it together in your head, that you get a sense that maybe he's basing that on the DNA. But I'm going to remain optimistic with Brian as well. I think, Josh, you were talking about it earlier too, that we're just going to hold out to hope that we get answers in this case. Now, with that said, we do know that with each passing day, the odds of a happy outcome are become slimmer, but not zero. So we're holding out hope, and I think the rest of the world is too.
I know I came into here with a little bit more of a negative view on the situation than I'm leaving with, just based on how Brian was speaking about it. So,
Right. I think the DNA, as we mentioned a couple times now, the DNA evidence, which should be back, if not now, within the next day or so, is probably the next step in breaking this open, right? It was the first step was that Nest camera release. I think the DNA is the next major step forward.
We have to, everybody, we got to mute mics for 1 second. Stand by. Yeah. Okay, back here with Mike's. Yeah, Rebecca wants to know, where's Nancy? That is the question that ultimately this all comes down to. Garrett stepping out for just a second. Just check on Stream Center availability for us to make sure that we can continue streaming for longer. There's a poll question that we can ask our audience. Or, I'll just, I'm not even going to put it in a poll question. Just, hey, chat, tell us, would you like us to stay live for a while longer? Or is it one of those things where, hey, come back when we have an update? And wow, that just sounded like the sheriff. And
that's right. We'll let you know on X when we have a press conference or something major.
Right.
Yeah.
But yes, do we, we're looking, because the Stream Center and the schedule for all the shows that we do in here, we're looking to see if we can stay live with you guys. And I would like to know just in the chat if you would like for us to stay live. Or if you're like, hey, just, come back when you've got something. You know what I mean? But I if I'm reading this correctly, I think
I'm seeing a lot of people leaning towards staying live. One thing that we kind of touched with
Gavis says, keep it rolling. Why not? Okay.
Right.
All right.
One thing that, and I guess it comes into my mind because right now it's on our little video that we're playing. This Range Rover is one of the more curious instances here.
What's up with the tarp? Actually, it's on the list of questions to ask Brian.
And I think we hit it a little bit, but we only had him for a brief amount of time. There was a tarp, and at least leaving here, it felt like the Range Rover was going to be a huge deal, especially when you're holding these white tarps, blocking everybody from seeing what they're doing. And now it's back to questions. What do they think that it's a suspect's or a potential suspect's vehicle? Whose vehicle is it? I don't think we know that. Was it one of the people that was detained and now released? Will they be able to get their vehicle back? Why are they keeping the vehicle? There's so much around it that I think as we get further in this, it feels like we just raise questions over and over again. But
I can't believe I have to state the obvious, but I'm going to state the obvious, okay? Because sometimes we skip over the obvious, and the tarp is put up to conceal something from the cameras in the area. Otherwise, they're really, and the public, because you're going to have people walking that street, even though route likely wasn't well-traveled, at night, or as well-traveled as night as it would be during the day. But you're putting that up because you don't want the public and the media to see something. So they are concealing something. Now, I'm not going to ask, the question in a way where we're going to entertain all the answers, because that's what we call speculative. But you're putting up that tarp more times than not. You're putting up that tarp, and I've been on. But there was a time, folks, when I was in the field doing what Brian Entin does on a much smaller scale, just your humble local neighborhood, your friendly neighborhood television reporter. By the way, it's another Spider-Man reference.
We've had a couple today.
A lot of Spider-Man references today. I don't know what's Garrett would have.
I've got a little bit of the red and black too here. I don't know. I don't know how we're
Maybe
getting
that's what it is. Garrett's a huge Marvel fan, so I'm making all these Spider-Man references. But yes, I was a friendly neighborhood television reporter on a local level, and I used to do journalism in the field. And yes, like when a tarp goes up, it's usually because of remains that are found at the scene, and it's usually due to just the sensitive nature of the visual and not wanting the media or the public to see, what is likely something extremely disturbing. And so when that tarp went up on Friday, I didn't with certainty in my mind say, oh, someone's deceased or someone's, but that's where your mind originally goes. And then we find out that there was no fatalities, no injuries, despite the one local report that came out from I believe it was KVOA, and we're trying to, we're trying to figure out like what could be behind that tarp. So clearly, what's on the table, I'll just say what's on the table, is that it's something that was clearly sensitive to the investigation,
it's just intriguing because I think tonally you see images like that. You see a tarp.
It was a curveball.
Yeah.
Let's call it that. It was the tarp on the Range Rover, and thank you for bringing it up. It's a curveball. We don't understand the reason for it.
The nature of it. And I think tonally, you see images like that on social media and your head goes places, as you alluded to. I know Garrett and I were walking out when we had finished the stream and we're talking about that feels significant. And we sit here now 72 hours more than 72 hours later, and it just feels like another thing in this case. So
Susan wants us to recount the and Garrett, should I mute Mike so we can or are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
I have this if you want to come over. I have the timeline if we want to show it to Susan if she's asking about the time of events that night.
You have a timeline for that night, the Friday night?
Oh, of Friday night. I took this
Okay.
as the night of the. Sorry, I see. It could be.
I'm sorry. Susan, can you just chime in again with a hashtag, please, and tell us real quick, do you mean the events of the night that Nancy was, as we understand it, abducted? Or are you talking about the events of Friday night with the SWAT operation? I'm only looking for Susan's follow-up here because she asked, and I want to follow up and just make sure that we're doing right by our audience here. So, and it might take a moment because we're on like a slight delay, so it might just take her a moment to type it in. But, because I know you have the timeline graphic for that night.
I don't have Friday night's timeline.
No, right, and we can take you through. I could just quickly take you through the timeline of Friday night. We get word of first. It was earlier on in the evening where the bomb squad got mobile, and that we found to be curious. There were reports of that online. And then you have reports of SWAT being mobilized, and then Brian Entin, by the way, another shout out for Brian because he did not divulge on stream where he was headed. But remember we were talking about it on stream. Remember I said that when I was a young reporter, it was taught to us: look, if you see cops doing an emergency response in one direction, you get in your news vehicle and you follow them. You don't share where you're going. You don't want to tip off, obviously, and compromise an ongoing law enforcement response, but you follow them. It's your job to follow them. And I've done that in the past. Brian was doing that. Brian and his photographer, and I think he's there with the producer as well. They got in their news vehicle and they followed the law enforcement response to the scene. And as Brian was going, he was I think he tweeted something to the effect of, Susan says Nancy missing. We'll get to, so you want to have that timeline ready?
Yeah, whenever. Yep,
we'll go through it here.
But he wasn't going to give the address of where he was just out of respect for the investigation.
Yeah, because you don't want to be the reporter that compromises an ongoing law enforcement response. It's then News Nation has the drone video of the traffic stop at a Culver's. Then there's the Shadow Hills neighborhood response. They set up the perimeter. People are we would find out later that people were detained. and the tarp goes up with the Range Rover at the at the Culvers. We're told, as we now know, if you were there with us late on Friday night, we were told a press conference was coming. Everyone is thinking, oh my goodness, this is it. They said they would only call a press conference if there was a significant update. This is it. They're calling a press conference. Here we go. We've got two different scenes, one at a home in a neighborhood and one in basically the parking lot or right outside of a Culver's. We've got two scenes where everyone's on it, and then all of a sudden things de-escalated. And there was a notice put out that it wasn't going to be a press conference. It was just going to be a statement. And then the statement came in and basically said that it was absolutely nothing other than, basically routine law enforcement response to an ongoing investigation. And it was quite the surprise to all of us here in the Stream Center, as it was, I think, to the public at large. So that's really the timeline of events that night. We would find out later that multiple people were detained, but no formal arrests connected to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. So hopefully that is a good, quick-ish synopsis of what happened that night. All right, you want to get to the timeline?
Sure. And we've seen a lot of this, but I think it is important to, as you get further away from details that are as important as this is.
I'm soloing you on this, by the way. So why don't you take us through it?
All right. So 5:32 p.m. Guthrie Ubers to a family home. Been reported that was for a little dinner there with family members. And then at 9:48 p.m., she's taken home. This is when she's last seen. 9:48 p.m. is when the garage door opens. And again, they have this information, you assume, because they were able to take the timestamps from the garage door itself. 9:50 p.m., garage door closes. 1:47 a.m. This is when that Nest doorbell camera is disconnected. Again, we've all seen that footage. What you're seeing in that footage then happens before 1:47 a.m. We don't know exactly when. They haven't released that timestamp, if they even have it. But we do know 1:47 a.m., that specific Nest doorbell camera is disconnected. 2:12 a.m., a camera on property, we don't know where, detects motion. They don't have a recording available, at least not one that they've released publicly. Maybe they've recovered it. We don't know that. No one's reported that. 2:28 a.m., this is when Guthrie's pacemaker disconnects from her cell phone. Many people view this time as the time she's actually off properly. At least she's far from her cell phone, or at least further than her cell phone could connect at this point. 11:56 a.m. This is when the family is alerted that Guthrie has missed church and checks her home. And then at 12:03 p.m., that's when 911 is called and the Pima County Sheriff's Department begins their work on this case.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty thorough. Any questions in the chat, please let Josh know with hashtag #HeyJosh, and we'll be on the lookout for those follow-ups. Yeah, Tracy on TikTok Live says, "Well done," because it's a lot. It's a lot to and my God, the developments since that night. It's just one thing after another. But absent from all of this is a press conference to help us get a better understanding of what this investigation actually looks like right now, despite the fact that we're getting all of these little snippets of information. We're not getting an official update. We are getting official updates. Sheriff Nanos is speaking. It's just it's here. The information is coming from all over the place. It's a smorgasbord right now of information, and it would be I'm reading Chelsea's comment here. And that's something that we can look into. Chelsea's comment. Chelsea, I'm going to come to your comment here in just a second in the queue if it sticks. But really quickly to Nanny, have you spoke to any of the family yet, like the Guthrie family? I remember that you were in contact with Gabby Petito's family when I watched that. I know there's speculation about Annie's husband's bandmate. Have they been questioned? I do not know the answer to that question there at the end, Annie. Well, what I will tell you about the just really quickly about the Petito thing, because there might be some just to kind of go back in time for a second. I never reached out to the Petito family during that time. That's I just real quick, because we got to stay on topic. the streams that we were doing at that time, as we were, praying for Gabby to be found, and we were trying to get Brian to come out of the house. That chapter of time when we were reaching so many people, it was actually the Petito family that reached out to me, and then those conversations went from there. But no, I have tremendous. These families are going through the worst, and while it's a reporter's job to reach out to these families, even as hard as it may be, to reach out and try to get an interview, I know what these families go through because I talk to so many of them, usually towards the end of the story, not as so much during, with the Petito case being the exception. And so these families are, their worlds are turned inside out. And there's so many reporters that I work with usually that are already reaching out to the family that I don't want to be the 50th, 60th, 70th reporter to be flooding a victim family member's phone. So that was the very, very rare situation where a family member reached out to me because they wanted to talk a little bit about Gabby. That's what that was. So, okay, back to that. But no, to answer the question, I have not reached out to the Guthrie family. Even though we are an NBC affiliate, we have countless people with NBC that are in likelihood talking with the Guthrie family. I don't, Savannah Guthrie right now is clearly handling things her own way by putting out updates when her and her family feel it is appropriate to do so. She's not doing interviews right now. She's not doing an interview with NBC. She's not doing an interview with anybody else. Like, she would be doing an interview with her team on the Today Show and at the network level. All right, let's get to some other questions. Any other points, you guys, as you guys are canvassing social media? We're back up on X, right? Let's just start there.
Yes.
No problems, no hiccups.
Mm-hmm. We at least X is showing up to us. Maybe they're just a back end, but it appears that X is back. And I did see.
I'm just, you know what? I'm gonna tweet.
Yeah, check it.
I'm gonna tweet this thing on. That's what I'm gonna put out right now on X. Let's just let make sure that there are people out there that are on X right now. Just that this is working. I'm just gonna wait for a reply to come in.
Well, there you go. I don't know. Did you get mine?
You're on my X post.
On your X post.
I don't see it yet. We have to refresh it. I will say that X is taking. Oh yeah. Hey.
There we go. Yes.
Is this you as a kid? Is this you as a kid?
This is not to go down this rabbit hole.
Because I wouldn't have noticed that was you.
That's me as a kid, with my hand on my head, and I seem to be in shock, disbelief, and frustration.
Oh, yeah. Shameless plug to follow Stream Center producer Josh Scott on X.
I did see
this thing works. Okay,
and I'm seeing if we have it. I saw one or two questions about the 911 call and whether or not there's audio. Sometimes in cases like this, audio like that gets released. I believe I had heard at one point dispatch audio. Not sure if we have access to it, but I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I am looking into it.
All right, so let's get to some of the other comments. Chelsea, I lost your comment. I'm sorry. I can't animate it on screen. Hold on. Kate on TikTok Live. #KJB. Is the motion detected at 2:12 a.m.? You want to go back to the timeline?
Yep.
When the suspect video is from?
No, it's not, because we do know that this video is from the Nest camera at the front of the home. And in the timeline, the Nest camera is disconnected at 1:47 a.m. And then about 20-ish or so minutes, 25 minutes later, I think, that is when the camera on the property detects the motion. So it is not from the Nest doorbell camera. It is from a different camera on the property.
All right.
Yeah, he about summed it up.
Yep, there you go. Other questions and comments? This is interesting. A. Brown, do you guys think that there's something that is keeping the authorities from notating if there was forcible entry or not? Without speculating too much, there is. It's like police work 101 to not reveal all your cards. There's going to be information that is sensitive to the investigation because if they want to verify if there is somebody out there with Nancy who's connected to the crime, you want to verify that only the suspect or a person of interest or somebody connected to the crime in any way, shape, or form would have that information. So could forced entry be included in that? It's entirely possible, but yeah.
Well, there was back and forth, too, at the press conferences, even from the sheriff, about seeing in the first one, they were leaning more that way, and then in the second one, it was brought up, so when you said forced entry, and he said, who said forced entry? And so we're never confirming or denying whether or not there was forced entry. So it's been one of those very interesting topics that's come up and gone one way and the other.
Wendy on Facebook Live, #KJB, is there no sound on the Google Nest camera? What's the official story on the audio from the Google Nest camera?
What do Nest cameras do not inherently record audio outside
by default.
By default, right? Outside of fire alarms, essentially in the home. Those they do record no matter what. But because we know that the Guthrie family, or at least Nancy specifically, did not have a subscription to the service that Google offers for their Nest camera, it did not inherently record audio. At least that is according to Google's own Q&A on their Nest cameras.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk too about the respective video and one showing him with a backpack on, one showing him without the backpack on. Polly here is asking, do you think the picture of him
without the gun
and the backpack came before or after the one with the backpack? It's certainly clear that they're two separate moments in time. Exactly how the time is, but we don't know. I don't have an answer to this. You guys have an answer?
No, I think that it's reasonable to think that it's after or before, rather. That's like it's maybe a moment where you're scouting out that front porch area, because that picture from the videos that we have seen released, that picture is not shown in the actual footage that we have seen, right? So it's something that they got maybe from the camera taking a snapshot or something beforehand. But you would think that if the individual actually made it all the way into the front porch, we would have seen that video without the backpack as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's almost like they released a still, but you wouldn't expect the Nest camera to just randomly take a still image. So for me, it leans to, it started recording a video and then the person appeared on frame and then left, and then the video was long enough that it would almost be inefficient to put out that specific entirety of that clip past just the still image frame. But to Garrett's point, we don't technically know that for certain.
Natter's question on TikTok Live is interesting, and I'm going to tell you why. I mean, the question is there any video of her being dropped off at home? If there is video from the Nest doorbell cam of her making it home the night beforehand, right from the dinner,
there would not be. And the reason why we know there would not be is that she entered through the garage.
Oh,
the garage
right.
door
Right.
opens and
That's
closes.
right. But why isn't? But thank you for bringing that up. But why? I wonder. Has there been a description put out about what she was wearing that night?
I don't think we've gotten anything about, because I think some people assume maybe she changed clothing before bed.
The last people that would have seen her, Annie Guthrie, when she had dinner with them that night, I highly doubt Nancy's going to go home and go to bed immediately in the same clothing. She'd probably change into a nightgown or pajamas, something that is more comfortable to sleep in would be my guess.
But I guess then to that point, we'll just stay on that thread for a second. I mean, what would Nancy be wearing? And would it be possible for investigators? It's look for a bolo, right? You're putting out. I've seen thousands of bolos over the years.
Can you tell me what a bolo is?
Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout.
Okay.
A missing persons alert. Sorry.
I would think that if they had a description or a reason to know what she was wearing, I think that they would have said so. I mean, we know that the Nest camera was removed before her pacemaker was disconnected from her Apple devices, right? So you would suspect that the camera was disconnected before she was taken out of the home. Unless she has security cameras inside the home, which maybe she does have. But if she doesn't have those on the inside of the home, there's probably no footage of her inside. And if we know that the camera outside was disconnected before she was removed from the property, there's probably not a lot of footage of her at all, at least as of the moment that she returned home. So, yeah, of course, the family could say, hey, this is what my mom was wearing when she was at dinner that night. It's very unlikely. You're probably not going to say, hey, last seen wearing this, because you have, I think, a reasonable assumption to say she's not wearing those clothes anymore. She went to bed.
If she went to bed in a nightgown of some kind, there's, if there was a way for investigators, would anybody have knowledge of her wardrobe to the point to say this garment is missing?
I mean, it's possible, but do you think so? Here's the thing to that, at least in my mind.
I'm trying to
the only members who are probably going to be familiar with that are probably her daughters, right? Do you think that they, one, are that familiar with what she's wearing, especially Savannah, who is not necessarily living in that area full time? And two, do you think that they're maybe in the right state of mind for that? I mean, you're going through a tremendous amount of stress in that moment. If you're Annie Guthrie or Savannah Guthrie going through her closet saying, I think maybe she's missing this one, but do you want to put out false information on that? You don't.
No, the answer is no. And I think most people would. Like, do you guys know what your moms wear to bed at night?
No.
I don't.
I can't. I don't know what she wears day to day, much less at night. So
fair enough.
Sorry, Mom. I know a lot about you, and you're amazing, but I don't know what you wear to bed every night, and I don't know what you're wearing today.
If you don't live with an individual 24/7, you're unlikely to know that type of detail.
Right. So if somebody was in the house that night and they saw her go to bed, that's. But with this being, the middle of the night, it's a missing persons alert where she could be wearing, who knows what she was wearing at the time, okay, let's go to, let's see here. I appreciate Shadow pointing this out on YouTube Live, saying, hey, JB, online sleuths are comparing the videos and showing the inconsistencies and showing the videos were taking at different times or dates. The darkness behind the kidnapper shows too darker / lighter. One of our great YouTube moderators, Chelsea, had tagged me in a video on Instagram, and it was I would imagine it was a sleuth. The gentleman, very, very thorough in his video, explaining that the moons were different that night, and the video with the backpack on versus the backpack off, the lighting of the sky is very, very different. Now, I cannot verify this person's claims. I'm not a astrologist or no, astrologist is I'm not an astronomer, right? Astrologist is like astrology, right?
Yeah. Barking up the wrong tree for that one, unfortunately.
No, I am not an astrologer.
Right.
Or no, I'm sorry, an astronomer.
Astronomer. Yes.
Astronomer.
There we go.
I am not an astronomer. I do not know enough about the moons and the particular moon that night and how much the night sky would have been lit. Not to mention there's a weather component here, because if the sky is overcast versus clear, there's going to be obviously a difference in the lighting of the sky. I know that because they're a team of meteorologists that work, right over there. In fact, we could probably look it up that night as to whether or not the skies were clear or cloudy. We were able to look up the temperature of 54 degrees that night on stream. I don't remember if it was cloudy that night, but let me see if I can bring it back up and I can tell everybody. But I do appreciate Shadow's comment here, because it goes to show that we think we're looking at one thing in the video, but something as right in front of our face as the color of the sky could be a clue as to when the video itself was taken. And
but I mean,
that's an example of the sleuthing that's going on.
But do we think that so Josh and I, you've talked about this before, Josh, about how it's very likely that there have been some work done, right? Some work's done on that video to try and lighten it up, to try and make it a little bit more visible. Do we think that's part of it too? Because I find it really hard to believe that somebody who former retired FBI agents and professional, people who have been interviewed regarding breaking down this video, they've called this person sloppy. They've called this person unprofessional. I find it really hard to believe that somebody would come to the same home on 2 different nights wearing the exact same outfit to know that you're not going to necessarily get caught in give away more information.
Goes back to the original question as to how smart this person is.
Yeah.
Is this person...
But do we think it's more likely that the FBI, right, when they release the photos, they do what they can to make the photos and the videos, they
alter the exposure,
brightness,
increase the contrast. I mean, I can tell you right now, at least, I didn't do it with the FBI, but if you take an image that they have put out, you load it into Photoshop or whatever your favorite digital, even in your iPhone, and you attempt to move it, you're going to see pretty clearly that it has already been done, because there's not many alterations that you can make to it without it looking either completely dark or completely bright.
I wonder if that, and I get it. People are very, very eager to try and solve this case, for whatever reason you might have. But when you are so eager to try and find something different, right? Talking about the sky and the moon and whether is different in one photo versus the other. I mean, you have to consider the fact that some of these photos might have just been doctored differently. One might have been, the exposure might have been different or changed to attempt to reveal something for someone to see, whether it be in the mask when the person is up close, whether it be the color of the backpack or the clothing, whereas versus the time when they are not wearing the backpack or they're farther away and the light can't be adjusted as well. I don't know that they're pointing to different times, right? It's hard to figure that out without knowing the context. And you would think that the FBI, right, if they were able to recover this footage and they've put out a photo that was from a different day, you would think the FBI would say so. They would say, hey, this photo was taken on a different day, shows the same suspect.
We have to be careful with assumptions, but yes.
Right. I mean, that's just there. I don't see any reason why, because they would have that information. They would have that information from Nest.
There's no doubt.
So
there's no doubt.
That's where I would just want to caution people with, internet sleuthing and trying to find out these types of information without a lack of context here.
So, okay, weather forecast that night around the time of what we understand would have been the time of Nancy Guthrie's abduction. It would have been approximately between 54 and 55 degrees. It would have been clear with a wind of about 14 miles an hour. Humidity would have been around high 20s or low 30s, and the visibility would have been perfect. A pretty standard night, overnight for Tucson. I'm looking here at the average highs and lows for that time of year, and it's a very typical night with no real clouds in the sky. So it would have been very, very clear out there. So to that point, if the sleuth really is honed in on the the patterns of the moon and then maybe there would have been, but you know what though, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much farther, but if there was an adjustment in exposure, would the background have changed based on cameras have auto iris, auto exposure, Garrett, you and I both know this, Josh, you know this as well. So when the exposure settings on the camera, the lens, and on it's taking in a different amount of light, is that changing the overall background of the image for the sky to be lighter or darker?
Which is exactly the point I'm making, is like, you don't know what the FBI has done to these photos in an attempt to make it easier for the average person to see what this individual is wearing, what they look like, their eyes, that type of different information. None of these photos are coming in undoctored, right? They're trying to make them as clear as they can. So there's no telling what has been done here and how it has changed the rest of the scene, because the FBI is not thinking, hey, they need to see exactly what the sky looked like that night. They're thinking they need to see the cleanest picture we can of the suspect, or the subject in the video.
See it there? It's like lighter there. Look at the sky. A little bit lighter here. And then as we play this, you see...
Well, can't see it there. There's not really anything to see here.
Right. But the idea is that foreground and background is going to change. I don't know.
And the other part of it too is
I'm not a video forensic expert.
the other part of it too is it looks clear. Like if you look at the backpack, right, there are reflective straps on the backpack that are very clearly reflecting some type of light, probably a light coming from the front door, camera, maybe the Nest camera. And in fact, when the person puts their hand up, it seems like it cuts a lot of the light of the background out.
There's a
that
moment,
also could be part of this.
There's a moment I have here on my end that I can show where you can watch the exposure shift.
Let's see it.
So right here, clearly, when you play, and Garrett, you just saw
Right
it.
there.
Right
hand
there.
goes up,
Yeah,
and you
see?
can start to see.
You know what? I go back and what this is, part of this, if you look at it,
Right there.
it's the light
It's coming in. That's the lens, right?
It's because the person is putting there is probably
Slow, can you slow it right here? Right there. Everybody see it?
there is probably a light, and you can actually see it too reflected in the glove. There is a light on this doorbell that this individual is covering, and that as they are beginning to cover the light, it is changing the exposure throughout the entirety of the video. And the same would be true of when they do this with the plant later, when they take that plant from the ground and attempt to cover it up. What they're doing is they're blocking this light. And by blocking the light, you are changing, as you said, the brightness, the exposure. You're changing everything about the video. And so you cannot just assume that the sky is different because the sky is different in one frame of the video versus the next because the lighting is different. Who knows, again, what we've done in post-production from the FBI to try and brighten any of this up. That could change it. There's just so many factors, and without the context of knowing exactly what was done, it's unreliable to say that that skyline is different.
I had never paid attention to the.
And again, if you go back to the start of this video, actually, or right there when he picked his hand up, you can see, on the straps of the backpack, they are reflecting light. There is a light coming from the front door. And as we mentioned, that's what they're blocking. And that's going to change everything about what you're seeing.
Let's see if I can pull this up here on my end too and mess with it just to really drive the point home.
John on YouTube Live claims in the video the person casts a shadow. The photo without the backpack depicts no shadow.
Well, that's pretty obvious. That's actually a pretty easy explanation as well. The reason they're casting a shadow in the video, right is again because there has been motion detected. The camera is on. The light is shining.
Yeah.
In that other photo, from what we can tell, it looks like they're standing far enough off of the porch that whatever motion detection light is happening there is not seemingly picking up the individual in that photo. The other photo is much darker, and I believe it is because there has been no light turned on on that Nest camera or whatever light, security light that Nancy has on her front porch.
Cheryl, yes, we talked about the fourth letter.
The shadow could also be coming, by the way, from the
I need someone
flashlight.
way smarter than me to help me understand what language this is.
Oh, hold on, let me pull up Google Lens.
Or an explanation. That is what is being asked, and is being asked in Dutch.
2 of them, but not in the last week and a half.
Right. It has been, we had said at the time, so we came in on Friday, and it had been 8 days since the last press conference. So now
3,
it is
technically, because we weren't live for the first one, but we were live for 2 press
Right.
conferences. Yes.
But so it was 8 days on Friday, which means that today is now day 11, since there has been a press conference. The last one that they had was 2 Thursdays ago, and it was a joint press conference by Pima County Sheriff's Department and the FBI. That is the last time that they have had one of those press conferences or releases. Outside of the glove, right? There was a release here recently about the glove that the FBI shared and that Pima County kind of signal boosted. But when we came in on Friday for that stream after the SWAT activity that was happening at the house that night, we were under the impression that there would be another press conference, and that they basically seemingly canceled it as we were going live. About 20 minutes into our stream, they said instead that they would send out a written statement, right? That's what Pima County said. And then by the end of our stream, they tweeted and said, hey, actually, because this is an active investigation, and this is what Pima County said, at the request of the FBI, we will not be releasing further information. So we have not heard a lot about them. And then over the weekend, as I mentioned, they released a statement, if you will, about the glove and the FBI doing this forensic, DNA testing. That's the last we've heard of them.
And right here, just you can see it's actually later in the clip.
Chelsea, I see your note. Thank you.
You can see that pretty clearly, the difference in lighting just from that movement alone.
Can you do a quick YouTube poll and ask if if we're having signal difficulties, please? Just the YouTube.
Yep.
We might be having signal difficulties here from the Stream Center. We are connected to a lot of places at once, everybody, so please be patient with us. We're on our app. We're on our Next or Sister Station websites and apps. We're on Facebook Live. We're on YouTube Live. We're on TikTok Live. Just a lot of signals being blasted out, so
I'm going to leave Google Translate up in case we get more Dutch questions.
Do you think we're going to get more Dutch questions? To the Dutch...
Listen, now that we've answered one, they know we can answer them. I mean, maybe they will. Maybe they'll ask more.
It's a good point. It's a great point.
How about it? I never thought we would. Okay. Rogue says... If you slow it down, you can see a small hole in the glove.
And I'm
Josh
putting
and
it real quick. I'm putting this poll up, but I'm seeing the chat. People are saying refresh, and it fixes it.
Oh,
so actually, do you even want me to still put the poll out, or
no?
Okay.
No, because
if you're watching us and you're having issues, refresh your page.
If you can hear that,
our video distribution provider will be talking with them because this is too often. We've had some signal problems, but I think I know the fix.
JB, to address this question, this comment on the screen here, Josh and we went over this while you were away. When we did our live stream, we kind of went frame by frame last week trying to show off some of the comments. I wasn't able to find a hole in the glove. Like I think we went through every frame.
Right there. No, that's it. It's a wrinkle, though.
This is a wrinkle, and this is a camera effect.
But that's what people are seeing, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what we're trying to say here.
Though some people said on the knuckle, and this wouldn't be the knuckle.
No, but again, this hand has got whatever glove this is, whether it be leather, rubber, whatever the glove is.
Yep.
It's got some type of reflective property to it.
Well, I think
the camera has got some type of light that is coming off, and the glove is reflecting, and because of the way that they are, obviously clutching and holding their hand, you're creating wrinkles, you're creating light refraction. There's a lot of things that could be misconstrued as a hole. And I'm not saying that there isn't a hole, only that I don't think that there's, at least from what I am seeing, I don't think there's anything definitive that says there's a hole in this glove.
I don't see it either. So, did we have this 216 Guthrie update?
You got that from where?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if this is something that.
But where are you seeing that?
Michael Ruiz, Fox News.
Let me pull it up. The only thing
this is a prearranged release.
Yes, no, we saw that. I talked about this. This was a lot of the previous.
Just
stuff,
making sure, because
yes. 216. It's 227 right now. I thought you meant 216 time, not date.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's just it's a kind of coincidence that we just happened upon a similar time and date here.
Yeah, I had the same thought.
But yes, no, that was the Pima County Sheriff kind of signal boosting the release that the FBI gave yesterday about the glove and the DNA.
We can actually put
and
that
then that was
too.
them talking about the
it's
lack of a press conference in case there's any.
Well, you can't read much of it, but this is what they're referring to. This is the entirety of the FBI release statement from Michael Ruiz's Twitter or X, excuse me. Again, a lengthy statement, but we've gone over that a couple times. So.
Yeah. NBC News continuing their following of this, and everything that they have that's new is already covered in that as well. So still trying to find anything current or new, kind of refreshing these pages, hoping that we're going to find out like that the DNA results have come back, that, they've gotten something or some information has come back. But right now we are still not seeing much of anything. And I don't know about you, JB, but I've noticed a little bit of a pattern as we're doing these is that a lot of the information seems to kind of come out after our day on the East Coast is over.
Yeah,
It comes around 6, 7 o'clock normally when we've left for the day, and I think that part of that is just because of, again, a time zone difference, right? That's kind of like 3, 4 o'clock for them in the middle of the day over in Tucson, so that's probably part of why. But too often have I gone home and then gotten a push alert like 30 minutes to an hour later.
You just kick off your shoes,
right? About some update to this case.
Yeah. I just, with all of the uncertainty out there, I'm a little, how many days has it been? How many days? Is it 12 days?
Since
the press conference, last press conference. It was 8 on Friday. So now we're on 13, I think. 13 days.
Yeah, 8, 9, 10. No, sorry, 11. This should be day 11.
Day
since
11
last Thursday.
Without a press conference.
Yep.
In the absence of an official press conference, you have everybody filling the gaps on the narrative. And that leads to confusion, conflicting reports.
Frustration too.
Frustration, a lot of frustration. Sometimes that boil over. Last night, you have this report from the local CBS affiliate, again based on a single source, and within like an hour or two, you had basically everybody pour cold water on it. It was a report claiming that it was a simple. I'm actually curious if they're still sticking to that report.
It seems to me like people are becoming so.
Oh, we're live. We're off of TikTok, by the way. I don't know what happened to our TikTok live.
Interesting. It seems to me, yeah.
We're gonna go to I think 3 o'clock Eastern. By the way, you guys. So
what is that? Hold on.
Let's see. Unless there's look, if there is
a new tweet.
If there is a significant update, we're absolutely staying live for longer, or we will be back live, because if we sign off at 3 Eastern and a massive update comes on at 3:01, believe me, we're gonna be back. We'll be right back.
An interesting question that I'm seeing posed by Michael Ruiz that I hadn't personally thought about, but as they do forensics on this glove, would the glove that they found, would they be comparing it to the plant material? Because they know the person was, the plant that you see on video. Is there a way to see, is there residue from that specific plant?
Now we're getting into...
we're getting
now we
into
need a botanist.
Yes.
Right. Is there residue from the grass on the glove? Is that possible? That sounds like a stretch, Josh. I don't know, but
I tend to lean with you too.
No. Oh, here's another ad. Hold on.
We are also, TikTok chat is telling us we are still up.
We are.
I see the same message you do, but chat and our executive producer,
it says the live is no longer available.
Yeah, apparently what would probably happen is it went down for a half second, but we got...
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies, Nathaniel.
Yeah,
and
he said
everybody.
we're good.
It was.
Yeah,
perfect.
Thank
I'm
you so
sorry. That's my bad.
I see
it
it
just said
too.
we were done. So
Yeah.
Strange.
To Shawnee and Darlene and everybody. Yeah. Hi TikTok. Hi.
Something that we
care about you guys.
Talk a lot about on these streams is about the distance between homes and how rural it all feels over there where Nancy Guthrie, where her home is. And I just saw this report that we have on our website from News Nation's Marnie Hughes, who talked about it, said that 2 miles here feels like 10 miles because of the way that the roads are winding. They can't go very fast. The streets are winding all around, as she put it. So I think that that's part of it too, is just people are expecting a neighbor to pick this up, right? A neighbor's Ring camera to pick this up, because you're kind of thinking in the same sense that a lot of people are, where you have homes that are in neighborhoods that are close together. That just really is not the case here, right? And I don't think we can stress enough. There's a little bit of aerial footage in our main VO that we play here that has a good shot of how kind of open the spaces and the properties are, and just how hard I think it would be for cameras from other homes to pick up on that. That is a real thing right here. I mean, you can see how far away the other houses look from Nancy's home. I think there's a really good chance that, because not only are they so far apart, you can't tell on the other homes where the front door is. It might not even be facing close to Nancy's home.
Yeah.
So it could be facing the opposite direction. It's not like a grid like you would see in Miami or New York, where everything is kind of gridded and everything is pointed the same direction. This is a lot more open and it's a lot more spacious, and it's just very tough to imagine that, there's a chance that a neighbor's Ring camera saw that.
To follow up on the local report, this is 13 News, CBS affiliate, out of Tucson, and they still have the report up. The other station that had that there was a fatality on Friday night that they've I can't find any trace of
They took it down.
They took that down.
Yep.
But this station is sticking with the report that claims, as I will read, a source close to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. By the way, real quick, source, singular. A source close to the Nancy Guthrie investigation says there is a belief her disappearance was the result of a quote-unquote burglary gone wrong. In the past week, multiple experts who reviewed the doorbell camera footage with reporters from our Phoenix station said the incident did not appear to be a planned kidnapping. Now the inside source says the investigators believe this was a burglary gone wrong.
And we've seen Pima County, by the way, come out and say that report is not indicative of what they are seeing.
Look, Nanos has come out and said, I don't know where that came from. That didn't come from us. The FBI has come out and said, didn't come from us. For the FBI to say anything at all, to throw cold water on this is quite loud. And so the source also says that there's widespread investigative belief that Nancy Guthrie could be alive, which is, of course, what we want to hear. But, it's, again, putting stock. It's not the first time, without bringing up receipts, okay? It's not the first time that we've had somebody either with the media or, that is independent of any media connection go with a single source. Sick of it. I'm sick of it. And, but it's just, I don't want this to become a standard for the future where, because as we talked about earlier, in the absence of official updates in the capacity of a press conference, right? Filling the void are reports that, again, are like this. And so I just, all right, let's get back to our audience here. Hashtag HeyJB, Josh, or Garrett, and we'll answer as many questions as we can over the next 20 or so minutes. Elizabeth Driver, HeyJB, Josh, Garrett, what is the range for the Wi-Fi and the Nest? Here it is. I wonder if there's a video of where he put the camera. If he put it in his backpack, did he detect movement and capture video or images, or inside the backpack? It's an interesting question, but wouldn't we believe that he would have? Josh, can you bring up?
Yeah, is that what you're looking up right now? Sorry, what did you want me to bring up?
I was going to say, do most Nest? We don't know the exact model, right? Do we know the exact model of the Google Nest?
No, I mean I don't think anyone's reported the exact model. You could compare to the mount and see if there's a specific model that works on that mount, which
right?
I
But is it possible to switch it off to turn?
I'm sure it's possible to do so. I mean, this is the thing too. I'm looking up. I was trying to see, what is the typical Wi-Fi range, just to see if we could answer this question in any way. And typically indoors, it's about 150 feet, right, for a standard Wi-Fi signal. But that depends on your router location. That depends on your internet connection. That depends on
any potential interference.
It depends on interference. It depends on the fact, and it's also, again, indoors. If you're talking about a camera that is outside through I think it was a brick wall, right? That's what it looks like there for that home, that could make the signal weaker or diminish it in some kind of way. So it's hard to tell, exactly, because again, we don't know the context or the circumstances for everything. But about 150 feet is kind of the standard average that most people know.
Well, even if they did, one thing that at least to me keeps coming up in my mind is Google probably didn't take one shot at a specific 30-second range and then just hit the nail on the head with, oh, this is when that person was there.
Sure.
And so even if they did, they either have it and are utilizing something like Elizabeth has brought up, or they have it and it's not really worth much. They're not able to get much out of it. If they thought that the public would be able to discover something via footage, we would probably see that footage. If they thought it would benefit the situation in any way, we would probably see the footage, and we do see the footage.
Not to mention, we don't even know if the camera survived. Like, once the
Right.
camera was removed, for all we know, the individual smashed it and broke it, or took the batteries out, or did whatever they might need to do.
You would imagine
to make it not work anymore.
it's either off or destroyed. Let's go down the 1% chance that the Google Nest doorbell camera is let's say it's on. Wait, it's Ring or Nest, or is it
Nest.
both?
It is Nest.
It's
You thinking
Nest.
the sniffer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it was on, could the sniffer pick it up? You would imagine.
I have to imagine there. Well, I don't. Can you see if Nest has Bluetooth capability? Because I believe the Ring cameras utilize Bluetooth when connecting to your phone, but I don't know that for certain. And now the more I think about it, I know a lot of things when you set up, it creates its own Wi-Fi that you connect onto, and then you link the Wi-Fi's together. So I don't even know. And maybe the sniffer can also find a Wi-Fi signal. I can't imagine if you can locate a Bluetooth signal.
You
from
wouldn't be able to
above,
find a
right,
Wi-Fi
so-
signal. Yeah.
From what I can tell, this is actually something that most cameras, whether they be Nest, Ring, whatever, a lot of them do have a Bluetooth capability so that you could have an initial setup, because initially your camera is not on Wi-Fi. You have to set it up on Wi-Fi so that it relies on a Bluetooth connection to, like, your phone, for example, to be able to find the Wi-Fi information for your router. That being said, it's like a low energy Bluetooth. It is not anything major. It is not meant to be used for, a longer distance. It is kind of, again, hold up your phone next to your Nest so that it can communicate with it, figure out what your Wi-Fi is, and then it relies on Wi-Fi for the day-to-day type of
That Bluetooth
needs.
is just is temporary. Yeah.
Right. So I think that is very unlikely. I mean, I'm not sure how likely it is that type of the signal, signal sniffer? I'm not too sure.
You think that's the official name of it?
I don't know, but I'm not too sure if
signal
that's
sniffer.
I'm not too sure if that's going to be able to pick up a pacemaker, much less.
Can I be? I'm always honest with our audience. What's going on in my head?
Sounds like a schoolyard taunt.
It sounds like something out of Scooby Doo.
Yeah. Oh, that
sounds like Shaggy and Scooby and Fred, Velma, and who's the last one?
Daphne.
Daphne, thank you. Sounds like they found something to find some signal in this haunted mansion. It's the signal sniffer. That's what they called it.
Brian brought it up, but I just because I was curious, I Googled it to see if there's any other reports of it being used in any other situation. And on a very quick Google search, I don't see. I mean, even AI is trying to, summarize it. And in its summary, it says, detecting weak signals from devices like pacemakers. So the fact that it's, the one example that AI gives you is a pacemaker probably tells you it's everything about this thing is being pulled from the specific investigation. And I scrolled down. That's the other thing, is the most recent things that mention a signal sniffer is probably going to be linked to this too.
Oh, I don't know that anybody thought it was a thing before this moment.
That's what I mean.
Rest in peace, Robert Duvall.
I saw that earlier. I wasn't sure if we wanted to bring that up here, but yes, he did pass earlier.
One of the greats. I'm so honed in right now in Guthrie that I did not see that. Yeah, that's worth just taking 30 seconds to acknowledge. Known for so many movies.
Yeah.
With Robert Duvall, and let's all. You know what? I do this on stream sometimes when we are so honed in on a story. Can we all just to the chat just take a mental break for a second? We've been on stream for How long?
2 hours and 43 minutes.
2 hours and 43
counting?
minutes talking about Guthrie without commercial breaks, by the way. Okay, so we're doing this nonstop for the last 2 hours and 43 minutes. We can take 90 seconds and everybody share your favorite Robert Duvall movie in the chat. We'll shout out a few. I
imagine Godfather's going to be up there.
Godfather's going to be up there. A small one that he was great in some comedic roles too, and one that that always makes my wife and I smile is Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell.
Well, it's like a soccer movie.
It is, and he's the dad who takes soccer way too seriously. Mike Ditka's in that movie, by the way, and absolutely hilarious. But Robert Duvall, wide-ranging in his talents.
Did a lot of westerns early.
I didn't realize he was in Newsies.
Days of Thunder. Yep, I remember him in Days of Thunder. To Kill a Mockingbird. He was in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes, I think that's probably his second biggest role behind Godfather. I would think.
Yeah, I mean, as far as someone who's loves a good popcorn flick, Gone in 60 Seconds. I remember him in that. Colors, Lonesome Dove. I got a lot of movies to watch, apparently. Secondhand Lions.
True Grit.
Did I see True Grit? That was with you're the movie encyclopedia in the house. You're the cinema lover.
John Wayne.
Yes, John Wayne.
Thank you.
Thank you for Rebecca Berry.
Meteorologist Rebecca Berry.
95 years old.
A favorite Robert Duvall movie to our weather team over here? Favorite?
Godfather.
Everyone just goes immediately to Godfather.
It's a very acceptable answer.
MASH is another good one.
What is it, MASH?
MASH. Yeah.
Man. Was he in Armageddon?
He was one of the astronaut people, according to Rebecca Berry, who knows more about Robert Duvall than we do, apparently.
Was that Michael Bay? Yeah, Armageddon, right? Yes, to Penny Robinson, Kicking and Screaming as Will Ferrell's dad. I'm sorry, I laugh because my wife and I have had so many times watching that movie where we find it hilarious. All right, thank you to everybody for the mental break. Rest in peace, Robert Duvall. I think our chat would agree. Mostly known for The Godfather, but also known for The Apostle. Great Santini, apparently. I'm just reading here. Apocalypse Now. I'm just reading out some. You guys could be making up some names of movies that I otherwise just don't know, and I would be just shouting out nonsense. But because I love movies, but Garrett's you're the movie lover in the
I do love movies. I always am hesitant to allow people to call me a movie lover or a movie buff because I don't think I know anywhere near enough to compare to some people. But
more than me, I'll tell you that.
I do love a good movie.
So this is going to be a last call for questions, comments, and also updates. Now, let me explain. Over the next 10 minutes or so, if there is a massive update of some kind, or even a non-massive update, if there's an update worth our time, we're going to go past 3 o'clock. But we all have bladders and stomachs.
Oh, yes.
Right? And so...
my lunch was delivered 2 hours ago.
Oh, is it downstairs in the lobby?
No,
somebody grab it?
No, someone's grabbed it. I'll get it later.
Okay. Mine is here as well, and I got to actually... But we're going to continue to stay on topic. Once again, rest in peace, Robert Duvall. I just saw that news, and I couldn't believe it. I'm a little behind on that, but...
yeah, Nathaniel, our producer here, said that Robert Duvall played Boo Radley. It was his first debut feature film role in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, my goodness.
That was the one that really got him for it.
Wow.
I've never seen that movie.
Really? They made us watch it in school, so that's
the one in black and white, right?
Yes,
with Atticus Finch and
they made us read the book and watch it in school. And
I remember it.
Now I know that Josh, you are younger than I am. Coming up, did not have to do that, and now I'm just.
I had to read the book, but I didn't
have to watch the movie.
No,
it was part of that. Was the one that they had used it as an example of difference in medium. So we had to read the book, watch the movie, and then do a report about what the differences were.
Shout out to Nathaniel Rodriguez, who tells us that he was once in To Kill a Mockingbird. One of our executive producer for digital content here at WFLA, who played Atticus Finch in the play. I can oddly see that. I don't know why, Nathaniel, but I can see that. Okay, so back to Guthrie and back to the questions and comments in our chat. Again, last call for questions and comments. Our hashtag system, it's there for a reason. It's there for us to know that you want your comment to be featured on our live stream. Some people don't want their name and their username to be featured on a live stream, for a whole lot of people. So if you want your if you want your name and your comment, and oftentimes it shows your profile picture with, connected to whatever platform you're joining us on, use hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyGarrett, or hashtag HeyJosh. One of those three, or all of them, doesn't really matter. If you use one of them, it pops up on our screen here in the Stream Center. I can click on it, and voila, you're part of our conversation and part of our coverage into the disappearance of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie in Tucson, Arizona. Lynn, one of our great moderators on the WFL YouTube channel, could the Range Rover be a vehicle of interest seen in other videos that they haven't shared to the public? There's been no mention of a vehicle of interest, so anything's on the table at this point regarding vehicles.
Right. The closest we had, there was a report, I think last week, that they were looking for an unmarked white van. But other than that, and other than that Range Rover that they had stopped during the SWAT activity on Friday night that we came in for, those are the only two times I think they've ever given us any indication of a vehicle or a type of vehicle or anything like that.
How's this for a username? Let's Kiss and Make Up 77 on YouTube Live. My question is, why aren't we seeing any missing person flyers? Well, to be fair, I don't know if there are missing persons flyers.
Right. We're not in Tucson.
There's also, we never talk about this stuff, but missing person flyers are something that were invented like a century ago. We now live in a world where an Amber Alert can be blasted out to like 1 million people within seconds, and flyers are just a very old school way of communicating to the public at large that somebody is missing.
And let's be honest, I mean, even if you're not plugged into, the news, you probably know this case. I mean, you've probably seen Nancy's photo because it's being shared everywhere all the time. The amount of attention that this is getting. You can't turn the TV on to a channel and not see something about this.
I was walking in my neighborhood the other day with my son, and we actually saw a missing poster, but it was for a cat that went missing in the neighborhood. You don't really see very often. Maybe in large cities you see them more on light poles and stuff like that, but missing posters you don't see as much. Now,
that's what social media is for now.
That's exactly right. Now, on the FBI's website, can we just do this as an experiment? If you go to FBI.gov, and if there's this opens up the conversation, by the way, that there are countless, and maybe not countless, but there are so many missing persons cases in this country active. Missing persons cases that have started in just the last few weeks since Nancy Guthrie disappeared, and that don't get this level of attention. And this is actually, it's funny, I was talking to Joe Petito recently, and he's an advocate for, that's Gabby Petito's dad. He's an advocate for shining light on more missing persons cases, especially with minorities, indigenous people, like the cases that otherwise don't receive the level of attention that a Gabby Petito would get, that a Nancy Guthrie would get due to the high-profile nature of their disappearance.
So to that point, I don't know if you're able to see it on there. I do have it up on my screen if we wanted to show what happens when you go to the FBI.gov.
Sure. Is there any
not on the homepage? You go down to the missing. You go down to missing persons / most wanted.
Yeah.
Help find fugitives and missing persons. She gets a highlight of case of the week.
They have a case of the week. Hold on, let's go full screen.
Okay.
And we'll put down the comment here.
And so this is
case
what
of the week
they have.
like I'm familiar with this list, but I didn't know that case of the week was the thing.
There's also a section specifically for kidnappings and missing peoples, and she is the 4th face in the results page.
What is this staggered by? I wonder. Well, like what is the
this one?
How do they rank
that is
these
sorted
people?
by newest. So that is the
there it is. Yeah.
newest.
So
sort.
newest by created. Yeah, wow. And again, folks, this is a federal database of names of missing persons cases.
Right. This is not every missing person's case.
Right.
Just the ones the FBI is involved in.
And then again, if you wanted to see what the poster might look like,
I'm seeing reports online that the hey, let's Garrett, would you mind checking with feeds to see if we have any live feeds from?
Sure.
I'm seeing a report that perhaps from another live camera at the location that a car is being towed now. That's an unconfirmed report based on our social media chatter. We're going to look to see if we have a live camera there and see if we can hone in on that.
and that could mean anything too. I mean, there's
Yes.
so many cars parked on that side street there.
Let's see. We'll see exactly what's going on. But yeah, no. Can you click on that missing
Yeah.
persons notice?
We have it over here.
Okay. Would you mind reading it?
Sure. So it starts off description, and it's description of her: eyes blue, weight around 150 pounds, hair brown, height 5'4", sex female, race white. Reward: the FBI is offering up to $100,000 for information leading to her location. The details: the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Phoenix Field Office and the Pima County Sheriff's Department in Arizona are investigating the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, last seen at her residence in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood of Tucson, Arizona, on the evening of January 31st, 2026. She is considered to be a vulnerable adult who has difficulty walking, has a pacemaker, and needs daily medication for a heart condition. The images above show an armed individual appearing to have tampered with the camera at Nancy Guthrie's front door the morning of her disappearance. The suspect is described as a male, approximately 5'9" to 5'10", with an average build. In the video, he is wearing a black 25-liter Ozark Trail Hiker Pack backpack. The FBI seeks information that will lead to the identity of this individual. If you have any information concerning this case, please contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. You may also contact your local FBI office, the nearest American embassy or consulate, or you can submit a tip online at tips.fbi.gov.
So while we do have, and by the way, absent from this description is anything that she was wearing that night, because we don't know what she was wearing that night, as we talked about a little bit earlier on. Garrett just walked back in here, and Garrett, we know we have cameras there. They're just not powered up at the moment.
Yeah,
right?
we have checked both News Nation and AP sources that we normally would use for a live feed. Not currently seeing anything on either of those. So if there is something like that happening, it is not something that we are currently aware of.
If we get a live camera, we'll stream it. But right now, we have no live cameras and no way to verify that report is accurate unless I get a hold of Brian, and I would imagine, look, Brian would tweet that out too. I think he would share that.
I've been searching, and I have not seen anything about Brian's tweets as far as that goes yet. So, yeah, we'll see.
All right, we have a lot of spammed comments in the chat, guys. We don't. That's not helpful to us. We have to sign off for now. With, of course, the fact that we all need to eat some food, and we do this without break. We've been live now for 3 hours, and so let me explain where this goes from here. We will be back live across all of these platforms. In the event of a significant update in the Nancy Guthrie disappearance. We also do a lot of other shows here from the Stream Center. Someone was asking earlier about whether or not we still do Tracking the Tropics. That's a stream that we do for hurricane coverage.
We're not in hurricane season.
We're not in hurricane season.
Thankfully.
But Tuesdays is when we do Tracking the Tropics. We also have, of course, breaking news episodes of Tracking the Tropics whenever we do have an active tropical storm or hurricane that we're tracking with our meteorologists that are seated right here to my right by about 20 feet in that direction. Yes, we are signing off for now. For those looking for more coverage for what we do here in the Stream Center, you guys know the drill. Like, subscribe. I don't know. Like, subscribe. What is it? What do we say?
Like, subscribe,
follow,
share, bookmark,
follow,
follow.
click. I mean, guys, you guys are all social media. If you found us, you're all social media savvy or you're app savvy and you know where to find us. If you want to follow me on X, that's normally where I post like, hey, we're launching the Stream Center. We're getting back up live. This is who we're talking to today. That's a pretty good mode. And then the WFLA app too is another spot to get updates on what we're doing here in the Stream Center. We will be back live on this story. There is a 100% guarantee of that. It just is update dependent. So we will see exactly where the coming hours take us. I'd really like to thank News Nation's Brian Entin, as well as Stream Center producers Garrett Phillips and Josh Scott. I'm JB Biunno. Give us again a follow or subscribe or whatever the button says on the screen if you're looking for more updates from the Stream Center in our coverage of the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. And as always, we are hopeful that this story has a happy ending. All of us are. For Garrett and Josh, I'm JB. We'll see you soon.